What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? You are on the sidelines with the Sideline guys for my favorite edition of this show, the one where we're not focused on one sport, we're not focused on two. Shit, we might end up creeping up to four. I'm excited for today's episode, especially because I got one of my favorite guests on the show today, my guy, Burn City Sports own Damian Adams. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Can't complain. Sounds good to hear that. People are going to start actually saying that now, right? They're going to say Burn City Sports is Damian Adams because that's going to be known now as far as we getting out there, being at NBA Media Day yesterday. So it sounds good to hear that, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think it's only appropriate right off the top. We just let the people know where we could find us, right? So for me, you can find me on Twitter as well as TikTok at Negron MMA, and you can find me on Instagram at Chris Negron _. Where can they find you, Damien?
So you can find me on all social media platforms at the Real Deal WDA. That's the Real Deal W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha on all social media platforms. You can find my work if you're looking for Phoenix sports stuff at burncitysports.com and follow Burn City Sports on all social media platforms as well. And of course, my podcast, can't forget about that, The Real Deal with Damian Adams, available on all podcast platforms, coming to you once a week.
I love it, man. I love it. Love to hear the new outlet getting the shine. I was thinking about how I could address this, but I think the only way to say it is just to come right out with it, right? Like my guy, in the last 4 years that I've known you, you've had more rebrands than my guy Robbie Chosen at this point. Can't but once again, just super excited to see that you're getting all the blessings that you truly deserve. You're a fucking hard worker, man, and I take a lot of inspiration from the stuff you do, and I put it into this show and other shows that I do. So keep doing the damn thing. I'm really happy for you. But with all that being said, let's get into why we here today, baby. This is my favorite time of the year, right? As combat sports fans, we don't get a break. We have
Yeah,
things to look forward to all year, right?
for
But when
sure.
you start throwing in those other sports, it starts getting the workload starts getting
Mhm.
crazy real quick.
Yeah.
And obviously in the thick of the NFL season, NBA season right around the corner, it kind of crept up on me, to be honest. This is the best time of year for me, man. I have so much on my mind, so much to talk about. So I think it's only right that we start looking ahead, right? The NBA season hasn't started yet. The mystique, everyone's a championship contender right now. There's a whole bunch of things to talk about, especially with all the wild last minute trades going on right before the start of the season. So I thought it'd be appropriate for today's episode, since there's so much to talk about, that we're just gonna make a whole bunch of lists today. I was feeling like we're getting towards the end of the year. Let's start getting these lists out, baby. So I think the first thing we're gonna be getting into today is our favorite NBA off-season moves. Now, there was a couple different ways I thought about like how I could go about this for my top three. Um, I think I did a lot of hipster picks, but excited to see how they stack up with yours. I'm gonna jump right in with my number three pick. This one kind of flew a little bit under the radar, man, but Grant Williams going to the Dallas Mavericks. I think a reason why this move specifically sticks out to me now is the big trade the Celtics just got done with Drew Holiday and acquiring him, obviously giving up I, I always feel wrong saying Robin Williams because that's not his name. It's Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Um, huge trade there, and obviously his impact not being on that team now really is an interesting point that I want to talk to you about. But as far as the Mavs construction right now, I still don't know how I feel about the Kyrie Luca dynamic. Like I feel like there's still
Yeah.
some things to be figured out there. But I just think I love his character, right? I love what he brings and what he brought to Boston. And I think having that kind of glue guy, I mean, Christian Wood for a minute, Dallas felt like they had one, right? Like I feel like he can fill in a lot of the different roles that he's really elevated in it when he was balling for Dallas. I feel like he could fill into a lot of those slots. So Random move, but give me Grant Williams. I think he's going to have a good year for the Mavs this year.
Okay. No, I definitely like that move for Dallas. And like you said, you definitely going in the hipster direction for sure. With that one, I didn't even think about that one as far as on my list. But that's definitely a good pickup for Dallas. And like you said, I'm still just have a cause to pause when it comes to the excitement about the Dallas Mavericks because defensively, I'm still not really convinced that they have enough on that end to stop teams when it comes down to nights where maybe Kyrie Irving isn't hitting his shots. Luka has one of those off nights. Can they still be in games? And Grant Williams, as good as he is, I don't know if he's good enough to help enough for them to be a true contender.
Great shout. Great shout. I agree. I just think the role specifically, we could see a scenario where this dude is really balling. Like I feel like he can expand in a lot of ways. And with all the other things going around in Dallas, they need something to hit right now. So I'm looking at this one. But yeah, I agree. It's still a lot of I feel like across the league, there aren't a lot of quality centers regardless, but just bench depth in general for those larger positions is always really tough. So interested to see how that plays out. What's your number three, Damien?
So my number three is a two-parter, same team, the Boston Celtics. Earlier this offseason, they picked up Kristaps Porzingis, who had a really good year last year for the Washington Wizards. Someone who, being a New York guy, that you've heard about all the potential he had that when he was there, it didn't quite work out. He went to Dallas. Him and Luka didn't really mesh, but you did see potential there. And then in Washington, you really got to see him finally be healthy for the first time in a while. And you saw him be good on both ends of the floor. You saw the full potential start to come out. And now he gets to go to Boston, where he's going to be now the fourth option maybe on that team, where he's going to be primarily a rim defender, floor spreader. And when you think about him in that role for that team, it's a great pickup for them. And I think they got stale with the team they had. A lot of success with that unit that included their two big guys in Tatum and Brown, along with Marcus Smart and Horford. But it got to a point where you're like, okay, we just haven't gotten over the hump. We need to shake it up. And they do that and go ahead and get Kristaps Porzingis. But in the move to get Kristaps Porzingis, you had to give up Marcus Smart, right? He's in Memphis now. So you're like, oh man, how do we replace that defensive energy? How do we replace that guard style? And then you find your way to get Drew Holiday. So not only do you replace Marcus Smart, you upgrade from Marcus Smart to Drew Holiday. You had to give up Robert Williams, like you mentioned, to do that. Also Malcolm Brogdon, but Drew Holiday, because of what he brings on both ends of the floor, is perfect. Perfect for Boston. Your co-host is going to love this segment because I'm really liking Boston a lot here. Because you think about Derek White, Drew Holiday, Brown, Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis. You have a starting five. That's the starting five. That all five can really play defense and they all mesh together as far as the way they play. This team is going to be dangerous. I love what they did in the offseason.
Great shouts, man. I initially when I saw that second trade for Drew Holiday, obviously super hype. I'm a fan of his upside on defense specifically,
Mm-hmm.
but considering losing Williams, I'm like, man, I don't know if the bench depth is there when it comes to facing a Philly, right? Facing a
Yeah,
team where you're facing a dominant center. But I agree, man. The hustle's still gonna be there. Like I feel like a lot of people are assuming they're gonna lose their identity because of the pieces they lost.
yeah,
But I think this team is going to be moving on both ends of the floor and
yeah.
should be high octane, fun stuff to watch, man. I'm looking forward to it too. You kind of stole my thunder here for my number two pick, but it's okay because I went on the other side of the coin.
Okay.
I'm really interested in this Grizzlies team, right?
Mm,
Because I don't think they're going to be contenders. I'm going to be very honest here. But I think this is going to be the year where we find out where this team needs to go. Can they become a contender or should they try to figure out where we're going to rebuild here? I think that's how pivotal this year is. And when you pick up a vet, like, man, all the things that he brings on the court is super exciting to watch. And considering all the off the court issues that the Grizzlies have become infamous for at this point,
yeah,
um, you hope, right? that these that adding in some vets around that point guard position will help. As far as on the court, it does kind of change things for me a little bit. Obviously, Dylan Brooks was there in a similar role, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's a more consistent shooter as well. Like I just think things are going to be gelling much better for the Grizzlies this year. So if this goes bad, I honestly could see them considering bottoming out and figuring out what we're gonna do as far as getting a second guy for Ja Morant to play with. Jaren Jackson's a beast, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of wings and dangerous wings you need to be prepared for now, especially with all the moves this year. So I'm looking at the Grizzlies, but I think Marcus Smart was a huge pickup for them.
I wasn't a huge fan of DeMarcus Smart pickup because essentially they got him to replace Dylan Brooks, right? And he is better than Dylan Brooks, but I don't believe the gap between him and Dylan Brooks is as big as people see it. I feel like Marcus Smart was able to do the Dylan Brooks job for a team that's had more success. And because that team has had more success, he has been looked at as a better player because of that. When you look at their numbers from last year, very similar numbers last year, and also very similar roles as far as being an agitator, being a good defender. I believe Marcus Smart is a better defender than Dylan Brooks, but he's also starting to slip a little bit on that end, right? He was Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago. And then last year, there were times where teams went at him, like weren't avoiding him, weren't trying to get switches. They went at him as he was a defender. So if that slippage continues, you can see the Grizzlies really struggle, especially those first 25 games, like you mentioned, because of the off the court things. You're not going to have Ja Morant for the first 25 games. I can see this team maybe starting out struggling, and then Ja Morant has to come in and try to be Superman. So we'll see if it works out. I believe Marcus Smart definitely is a good veteran presence, though, as far as just needing somebody who's going to have that hustle, know that you can't, rest on your laurels. He's going to bring that intensity for them. But I don't know if he's good enough at this point to help them get over that hump. When you mentioned some of those other wings out there, Desmond Bane is the one I think has to step up. Jaren Jackson Jr. you mentioned is good, but offensively can step up a little bit. And hopefully Steven Adams is healthy this year because that's a big thing. When he was hurt last year, they really, really missed his presence. And the fact that Steven Adams, as good as he is, he shouldn't be the guy who breaks you. Like he shouldn't be the guy when you lose him where it's like, oh man, we lost Steven Adams. It shouldn't be that. It should, like he's a good player, but it shouldn't be like a back-breaking thing when he's out for you. So we'll see what happens with this team going forward. But I do like the move from just a maturity standpoint and having a veteran presence on the team.
All great shouts, man. You're killing me here right now. I'm trying to get hyped up, but no, I agree. That's why I'm saying this year's super pivotal, man. We could go one
Mhm.
of two ways, and it's really going to be up to those guys to figure it out for the first 25, like you said, man. Still can't believe we're in this scenario, right? If I'm being honest, like, man, the memes, it's insane. I think last season was underrated as far as just crazy fucking storylines.
Oh, last season was nuts. It was nuts with all the things that were going on. And then even the stuff that happened in the offseason right afterwards. Like
Mhm.
we joked about Zion and all that stuff on the show, like all the stuff that happened last season. It was a crazy season as far as just storylines. Like you're absolutely right. It was nuts.
Heck yeah, and we're gonna be talking about your Pelicans again soon, so don't worry. But what is your number two, Damien?
So my number two, I got to come out here to the Valley where I am covering the Phoenix Suns. Them picking up Bradley Bill. I feel like part of me is saying that they could have done something different once we saw the Aiton trade because so DeAndre Ayton chemistry issues didn't show up in a big way in the playoffs. So it was rumored that he was going to get traded, but they make no moves. They come out and say that, we're behind Aiden, and you go the whole offseason pretty much without making this move to trade Aiden. But you make the move to get Bradley Bill. And obviously, Bradley Bill wanted to go to Phoenix. He waived his no trade clause just for Phoenix. So that was an easy move to make. But when you look at the deal, the 3-team deal with Dame included, it seems like Damian Lillard could have been available for Phoenix to get because Portland wanted DeAndre Ayton. So if DeAndre Ayton is the main part of the trade that they want, because we mentioned Drew Holiday, they got him and obviously traded him right away to get more assets and pieces. So the main part they wanted was DeAndre Ayton. They could have used DeAndre Ayton to get Damian Lillard. And they would have had to, of course, throw something else in there to make the numbers match up the way the NBA works with the trades. But I feel like they could have approached Portland before and said, hey, we know that you guys are looking at getting Scoot Henderson in the draft. You're going to be rebuilding, getting younger. You can get Damian Lillard. Let's go ahead and do it because I know that you guys want DeAndre Ayton. But they went ahead and get Bradley Beal. And into fairness for them, Damian Lillard didn't announce that he wanted to be traded before that. But I feel like the NBA world knew like he was about to be out of there and they could have did something with that. But with all that being said, Bradley Beal's a very good pickup. And I wrote an article for Burn City where I talk about how Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant kind of break the mold on the modern NBA and how you play it. Because the modern NBA is all about getting layups, free throws, and threes, right? That's what they want you to do. That's what the mathematical, analytical point is to do, right? Those are the most efficient shots. But those three guys break that mold because all three of them are great mid-range shooters. Now, of course, they all can get to the rim, they all can shoot threes. But the fact that they're all great mid-range shooters will break defenses because defenses are built to stop the three-pointer, stop open threes, and stop layups. They want to give you contested mid-range jumpers. But the problem is those guys excel at making contested mid-range jumpers. And Kevin Durant doesn't even see you when he shoots a mid-range jumper because he's so tall. So when you have three guys like that who can break the mold offensively, that just makes everything so much easier to build around. So I feel like the Bradley Beal move was a good move, even though now thinking about it, Damian Lillard could have been available, maybe, but Bradley Beal definitely works out for them. And I think that this offense will be either one or two in the league as far as the best offenses because they have those three guys.
Yeah, man, this one cannot be denied. I'm glad that you put it on your list because I left it off for a lot of different reasons. But the first one, Ishbia came in here balling, right? Like he was just trying, no matter what happened, he was gonna switch things up.
For
And
sure.
it's a crazy big three. I'm side-eyeing this team, man. I feel like this is, as far as star power, I feel like the how do I say this? I feel like the more newer NBA fans are like, this is the team. But when you compare this team to the Celtics, I know they're not in the same conference, but hear me out here. I would argue that the Suns are going to try to be what the Celtics have achieved as far as their top five this season, but they have no bench, none whatsoever. And those things, as we get further in the playoffs and trying to make that deep run, is, in my opinion, what's really going to make the difference, especially with those juggernauts out there in the West. So I'm obviously excited to see what the Suns are going to look like. I'm just at this point a resident KD hater as well, which is kind of crazy, right? Like being an OKC fan at this point, it's gotten dark over here. Kind of rooting for him not to get another chip, if I'm being honest. But I still am rooting for Devin Booker's success. The dude's a baller, and that team's going to be great no matter what. But championship level, at this point, when you make moves like this, it's championship or bust.
It
And
is.
losing Aiton is interesting to me because I get the money side of it, right? Like with all the changes with the CBA, they had to figure this out. Like there's no way
Yeah.
you can have all these guys under contract and make it work without paying almost $500 million or something. So
Yeah.
it's just a weird move. Like, why even sign the offer sheet last year if you're going to end up trading him away next year, which
Yeah.
what felt like for pennies, right? Like you got back a lot of different players that are probably going to get minutes because your bench is that bad. And Nurk and as far as Nurkic as a setter, like I feel like he's going to ball in this role. But I'm not sure it's even a lateral move. So it's a little weird, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, I thought that top four was a little more promising than this big three now, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I gave Phoenix a C minus on the trade, on the three-team trade. I gave him a C minus because you're downgrading from Aiton to Nurkic for sure. Not only you downgrading in age, because Aiton is not even in his prime yet. Nurkic is somebody who, from an age standpoint, should be in his physical prime. He's only 29, but after he broke his leg a few years ago, has been on the decline. hasn't been as durable. Last year, he averaged 13 and 9 rebounds. Ayton's giving you 18 and 10. So you're going down from a production standpoint. Now, with Nurkic, he doesn't need the ball. So he's not somebody who's going to get upset if, Durant, Booker, and Bill are going crazy and they're not getting shots. He's not going to care about that, right? He'll be fine cleaning up offensive rebounds, getting the occasional post up. He'll be fine with that. But he also is supposed to be a good defender. Like that's what his kind of makeup was coming into the league, being a good defensive center, and he slipped on that standpoint as well. So my thing was, if you're going to trade away Ayton and have a downgrade offensively, at least get a guy who's supposed to be a anchor on defense. So I was thinking about some of the trades they could have done that may have been available, like maybe Jared Allen from Cleveland. He's going to be downgraded offensively, but defensively, Cleveland was ranked number 1 in defense last year. So why not get somebody like that who you know is going to be an anchor, block shots, and all he wants to do is get dunks, and he'll get those on pick and rolls and easy drop off passes from the big three. Another player, I don't know if he's still available because he had a good year last year, but Miles Turner. So the Pacers, like you mentioned, they signed or tried to sign DeAndre Ayton when he was a restricted free agent. The Suns matched the deal. So the Pacers are truly interested in DeAndre Ayton. Now, Miles Turner turned around and had his best year last year as a pro. So that might give the Pacers cause to pause on that and not want to trade Miles Turner, but I would still make that call, which we don't know if that call was made. And I don't think that James Jones will answer my question truthfully if I asked him that, to be honest. But I think that you have to make that call to the Pacers about Miles Turner, because Miles Turner is giving you 2 blocks a game, true rim protector, and also shoots 37% from 3. So he's spreading the floor for KD, for Booker, for Bill, while also being that guy on defense to upgrade you. Nurkic, good player, but doesn't do any of those things for you. So I do believe it is a downgrade, and that was a weird move. And it truly shows you that it was a chemistry thing with Ayton. The money thing makes sense because next year, not this year, but next year would really affect them. But this year, they could have went in with a big 4 and said, oh, we're going to go all in for a championship. If we get it, cool. And then next year, we got to make these moves to avoid all of the apron stuff that goes on with the salary cap now. But this year, it wasn't going to affect them really. So it's a move to get ahead of it, basically. But they could have went in with a big 4 and said, are we going to go all in this year? And then we'll just worry about it next year. But they decided to go ahead and get rid of Ayton and really downgrade. But I do like Grayson Allen off the bench, or he may start. They still trying to decide who that 5th starter is. But I like the Grayson Allen pickup. But the Grayson Allen pickup shouldn't be the gold chip for trading away your former number 1 overall pick, who's still productive.
Such great shouts, man. Shout out to Grayson Allen too, a guy that I feel like, I mean, for good reason, his image was tainted, right? It's
Yeah,
not like all of those things were made up, but I feel like a lot of people sort of pigeonhole him into
for
only
sure.
that,
Yeah.
when in reality, the dude's a baller. But once again, I think there's a little bit, and maybe I'm the one that shouldn't be bringing this up, right? But let me be real here. I think there's a little bit of why the fuck is this white boy in the league syndrome, no matter who it is, right? Like, so a lot of people just don't
Yeah.
see what they bring to the table. The dude's clearly a baller, right? And
Yeah, clearly.
no
And
matter no matter I
sorry,
was gonna
man.
say no, you're good. I was gonna say no matter what people say, everyone that has played with him, I'm sure wants him on his team, because that
Yeah,
that's the guy that's gonna be getting in people's faces for you. You don't even have to do it. You know what I mean?
yeah. For sure. And I definitely think the dirty player thing took a turn where people just went into like the sheep mentality. No one was thinking for themselves. Like I remember there was a video on Instagram the Chicago Bulls posted. He was guarding DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan goes around a pick. And sometimes when NBA players go around a pick, they'll stop to stop the defender from trying to get back in front of them, right? So DeMar DeRozan is going around a pick. He stops, gets in front of Grayson Allen to stop him from getting in front so that he could drive to the rim. But as he stops, Grayson Allen's going a little too fast, and you see him try to slow down, and he taps him. He literally taps DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan flops and gets the foul. And all the comments like, "Oh, look at him being dirty! Look at him being dirty again, pushing DeMar DeRozan down." And it's clearly a flop on the play. And it's like, at a certain point, he got painted as this, and people didn't want to see him outside of that. And there definitely some as a thing there about, is this guy really that good? And if you're asking that, you're not paying attention. The guy's a dynamite shooter. He shot just under 40% from 3 last year. he's very athletic, which gets kind of lost in the sauce with him. Like when he came into Duke and into the league, he wasn't a shooter or 3-and-D guy. He was a slasher. And he talked about that yesterday. I asked him who he modeled his game after growing up. He was like Dwayne Wade. Like Dwayne Wade was the player who he modeled his game after. He's like, you watch my high school, college highlights, I'm slashing. I'm doing Dwayne Wade stuff. And he said I had to change my role as I got into the league, but he still can do that. Every once in a while, you'll see him get to the rim, like, oh, okay, I forgot Grayson Allen got house like that. So he's somebody who I think the reputation really took a turn. Like you said, definitely earned in college. He was very immature, earned in college, but I feel like in the league, it carried over from college, and people couldn't change their mindset. They didn't allow him to grow outside that box that they saw him in.
Damn, I gotta make sure I ask about anything involving the Suns because this insight is freaking amazing right now. I love it. But yeah, man, shout out to Grayson Allen. Nobody's giving him shouts. I think he's a baller, but my number one, I think it's pretty obvious, right? It is Dame time, baby. All caps. Yeah. All right, there's so many different angles you could look at this, right? I'm gonna start with Portland. The fact that some of the people talking about this are like Portland did Dame dirty is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
It never made sense to me that he was gonna land in Miami, right? Like, what were you gonna get him for? Like, was there a strip club down there that I don't know about that's offering some sort of deals? Like, how exactly are you guys gonna make up the value, especially when a lot of their big pieces that showed out in this finals run got shipped off to a whole bunch of different places, Lakers, Cleveland, everywhere. Their whole team got sort of picked apart, and it felt like they were just sitting there waiting. I love how I said I'm starting with Portland and I just went to Miami, but this is important. Miami was just sitting there waiting, trying to lure him and assuming because he said that's the only place he wants to go that they were just going to get him. Shout out to Portland for doing the right thing. I get that this man has been loyal to you and you would want to pay it forward, right? But getting this man to play with one of the best players in the league and obviously put him in their talk for ring chasing for the next 3 years at minimum, in my opinion. That's a freaking win. You're looking out for the guy while also looking out for yourself. What they got back in this trade was huge. And the fact that they were able to also flip those pieces into some vets that they were able to make moves, right? They were able to ship off Drew Holiday and then get back Brogdon. I think Brogdon is going to be able to ball in this role too if he stays here. I don't know if he will, but with an expanded, I think he's been needing a starting role in my opinion. I think he has breakout potential. We saw him cook last season in that 6-man role, so I hope he stays. Portland's interesting to me because I think everyone assumes by making this move that they're just going to bottom out. I could see a scenario where we're 25 games in and we're like, we might have to try to make a trade to make us better, right? Because we might have a chance here. Like I think that's definitely in the cards this season for them, but we will see. All that being said, obviously, all eyes are on Milwaukee with this trade. Dame Lillard is a baller, man. I think he is no doubt a Hall of Famer. Like, if anyone knows the pain of being on the other side of Dame Lillard's highlights careers, it's me, bro. He has destroyed my Thunder every year in the postseason. It felt like for that little run there when we had Paul George, and I'm a real fan of everything he brings, his leadership, his demeanor. One of my favorite players in the league to watch, and having that paired with Giannis is going to be insane. I'm really excited to see that pick and roll game, dude. It's going to be crazy. Like, and the post ups too, like the things they're going to be able to do to motion Dame Lillard too. I'm excited to see what they're able to do out there in Milwaukee. But Dame Lillard, you got your spot. I'm still looking at you sideways, right? You was talking big shit about everyone linking up. You orchestrated this. This was your 2K moment, right? You need to get a ring. If you don't get a ring after this, regardless of how he plays, everyone is going to be talking about how it didn't work out. So, good luck. Best of luck to the Bucks. I'm pretty sure they'll get one in the next 3. I'm being honest. How you feeling about Milwaukee?
Yeah, so that's my number one as well. So go ahead and get that out the way. And and this is an amazing move. I feel like it separated them at first it separated them from the rest of the field in the East. And then Boston got Drew Holiday. It feels like Boston closed that gap a little bit, but they're still the favorite in the East because of this. And a lot of people were saying that they felt like this move was kind of similar to what Dallas did in getting Kyrie, where they gave up so much defense to bring in the offense of Kyrie, because you give up Drew Holiday, who we know is a great defender, Grayson Allen, who is a very good defender, to get Damian Lillard, who's not known for his defense, right? But the thing is, unlike Dallas, this team still has Brook Lopez, who was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's always a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Pat Connaughton, who's going to step up in Grayson Allen's role, is a very good defender. Chris Middleton can hold it down on defense. So Damian Lillard, if he's the 1 weak link on defense, it doesn't matter at all because of what he does on offense. Last year, 32 points a game. Like, what? Like, that's like, I don't think other people understand how hard it is to do that, because more people are averaging bigger points in the NBA now. But to do that, especially on a team where you are the number one option with a bullet, people know every night the scouting report is, hey, don't let Dame get off the screen for a three. Don't let him go to his right. Don't let him go to his left. They know exactly what it is you want to do because you are the scouting report. No one else on the scouting report matters. You know, you might be like, oh, you know, make sure this guy doesn't crash the boards. But Damian Lillard is the entire scouting report when you played against Portland. So the fact that he was that guy and still being very efficient, averaging 32 points a game, and now he gets to do that where Giannis is the number one option. For the first time in his life, he's going to be the number two option. And he gets to do a pick and roll where Giannis sets the pick, he comes off. There's Chris Middleton on one side. There's Pat Connaughton, who can shoot the hell out of the ball on the wing. There's Brook Lopez, who's a very good three-point shooter now in the corner. And Giannis diving to the rim. How do you stop that? Like, the offense is going to be crazy. It's going to be bananas, and they're still going to be very, very good defensively. This move was awesome. But like you said, they got to perform. This is a NBA championship or bust season for them. They're in the same situation that Phoenix is. They need to win. So there's a few teams who have, that's why this season is so exciting. There's a few teams that have that we need to win right now mentality. And Milwaukee definitely is the top team now, in my opinion, with we have to win.
Heck yeah, and they got the pieces to do it. My favorite part about this team too, right? Has there ever been an NBA team in history with four motherfucking brothers? We getting all the brothers in the NBA. We just throwing them all on one team. Two of them ain't gonna play, but we there. You know what I'm saying? We keeping the family close on the road. It's all about good vibes. So yeah, I think there's no cancers in that locker room. Everyone's got it figured out. And another great glue piece for them too is Crowder too. I think keeping them was also a sneaky good move for them too. So
for sure.
A lot of depth, man. They're going to be a problem out there. And Middleton's the one that's been slept on the most too. I know nobody's even talking about him. So looking forward to seeing them actually make
for
it
sure.
happen.
And you mentioned the Antetokounmpo brothers. Hey, you need that bench energy. You need that bench energy. Like, they always bring that energy up the bench. My man be clapping super hard. He coming in like, no matter how you feeling in the game, you look over there and see him just super hype. It's got to keep you hyped so much. It's like it matters a little bit.
And now imagine that when he's turning up, you look to the left and the curls are just fucking flowing. Robin Lopez is there too now, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a celebration to watch for on the sideline because they're gonna have a lot of opportunities to do it. But I'm sure we're gonna end up talking about them again anyway later on. But our next top three for the NBA is top three teams that we are looking forward to watch. Now, I took this one a little bit differently, right? I think the big names are always going to be there, right? But I'm going to start here randomly with an honorable mention. I'm not even going to start with my number three. I just thought it was important to say this, all right? If there's anyone in this world that is a Jalen Green apologist, it's your boy right here, right? I for a long time I've been telling people like, man, I see a lot of T-Mac in this kid, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about, bro?" Like, I don't see it. I'm a big fan of his game, man, and I think with some discipline, the kid could be a baller. And I think Dylan Brooks, everyone was cutting his ass and making memes out of him. after the playoff run, but the dude got paid for a reason. We saw that during his FIBA run. I think he really took a
Mhm.
big step up, and it was great to see that leadership, especially because he's going to need that big time here in Houston. And then also, when you consider they got Fred VanVleet too, a lot of veteran presence to help free Jalen Green up to be a fucking star. And I'm excited to see how that looks on the court. And I just love the dumb shit he brings to the table too, like showing up in the tunnel with some boxing gloves ready to go. Terrible form, right? Like terrible form. But he's ready either way. So Houston Rockets are on my honorable mention list. I'll have you start with your number 3 whenever you're ready.
So my number 3, I don't know if you picked this team, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick them for you because I know you want to pick them. OKC Thunder.
Yes,
Like
sir.
I'm definitely looking forward to watching OKC this year. They got a squad, man. They got a squad. You talked about FIBA. Two of the guys that are going to be big parts of OKC were on that Canada team. You think about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was first team NBA last year, coming into a year now where people forget, man, this dude's still what 25, 26 years old. Like he's still a young player who last year just exploded onto the scene. And I feel like this year is going to be even bigger because the team's going to be more successful. Think about him. Think about my guy Lou Dort. I sent you the article I wrote about him. Being a former Arizona State guy, I was able to fit that in creatively in a Phoenix sports site about Lou Dort and what he's been able to do now in the NBA. And I think that he's going to take a jump as well offensively, along with his great defense. Chet Holmgren, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil. I don't know if we're gonna do like an NBA picks, episode down the line, but that's my surprise pick for rookie of the year. Everybody's gonna go with Victor Wembanyama, but Chet Holmgren, gotta remember, he had that year where he's been able to train NBA type training, right? And I think that matters. You look at Ben Simmons, all the jokes about him, being a rookie still. He got to train for that year or years where he didn't play, and then when he came in, was ready to go because of the NBA training. Same thing with Blake Griffin. We've seen it before where players have missed their first year, and then on that second year where they're technically a rookie, they win rookie of the year because they have more experience than the actual rookies coming in for the draft. So I like Chet Holmgren to win rookie of the year. Love all the players they have, man. They have a really balanced roster that is really, speared by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And they put my Pelicans out of the play-in last year. So I have to respect what they've been able to do. And I love that roster. Lou Dort went crazy in that game against us. That's why I believe he can really start to be more consistent offensively. So OKC is my number 3. I'm really looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, OKC was all FIBA, right? Like Josh
Yeah.
Giddey was balling out for Australia,
Mm-hmm.
all fronts. We showed
Yeah.
out, and man, Chet Holmgren is my best kept secret. I'm not even talking shit to anybody about him because I've never been more confident in a player coming out of the draft as far as their demeanor. Just
Yeah.
interviews, hearing him talk about the way he feels about the game, the his plans, like the way he's approaching it, like the
Yeah.
dude seems like a young vet, like and he hasn't
Yeah.
even gotten to play yet. So um I'm really excited to see him hit the court, man. I'm getting fucking goosebumps thinking about it over here. And like I think we have a legit shot to be a sneaky championship contender. And I know that sounds crazy. A lot of things are gonna have to work out for that to make to
Yeah.
for us to make that work. But hands down, man, I think our young core is amazing. And I think if we have to, we could find ourselves in some trade talks too come the deadline just because we have so many damn pieces. At this point, I don't even know. Honestly, you know what we got to do with all these picks we got? Let's just start a fucking expansion team, right? But they're under our umbrella, right?
Yo, start
And
the expansion, start the expansion team.
yes, sir. I'm thinking about it like this, like almost like a Premier League situation, right? Like a minor
Yeah.
league affiliate, but if at the end of the year they get to play the last ranked team, and if they win against whoever comes with the most amount of losses this season, they get promoted to the NBA. I think that if
That'll
that
be dope.
fake world were to exist, I think with all the
Yeah.
capital we have, we could make a whole second team and be balling
Mhm.
with all these assets. So I anticipate at some point we're gonna make a blockbuster move. It depends on the situation. Got to find the right disgruntled guy. But
Yeah.
looking looking heavy on that. But who knows, man? Big year. And I love that you did this at number 3 because I swear I didn't plan this at all. But for my number three, I'm going with the New Orleans Pelicans as well. I
Okay.
find it so strange, brother. I find it so strange that after everyone was making all these memes all off season, nobody's talking about this team. Can we talk about that? Am I imagining that?
Yeah, no,
Nobody's talking
it's
about the
definitely weird.
Pelicans.
Yeah. No, it's definitely weird. And the off-season stuff, like all of Zion and the ladies he was dealing with and all that stuff has overshadowed what this offseason has looked to be for Zion. Looks like he's finally locked in on being healthy. And we all know he can ball. When he playing, 27 points a game on 60% shooting, he's dunking on people, crazy layups at the rim. Brandon Ingram is a monster. CJ McCollum gets you 20 points a game. Like Jonas Valanciunas is probably the most underrated big man in the game. Herb Jones is one of the best perimeter defenders out there. So this team is loaded if they can stay healthy. Maybe that's one of the reasons people haven't talked about them, because Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum have literally played 10 games together. 10. So when you look at the fact that they haven't been able to stay healthy, not just Zion, Brandon Ingram missed a big part of last year. Jose Alvarado missed big parts. CJ McCollum played through a lot of injuries last year. So this team last year, before all the injuries started, was the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. I think that's something that's been lost here. So when you say they haven't been talked about, that's the part that's kind of shocking me, is that people aren't mentioning that, when this team was healthy, they were rolling. And I think that's something that really has been lost in the whole Zion, I'm not even gonna mention the girl's name, but all that sauce. The fact that this team is super dangerous if they're healthy. I'm sorry, I just took over your pick there, but yeah,
No,
if they're healthy, they're so good, man.
by all means. You made all the points I was gonna make, but I'll fucking add to it. Jose Alvarado's a monster, bro. Nothing makes me more proud as a Puerto Rican than to see Jose Alvarado balling out. I think he's one of my favorite low key players in the NBA. And just looking at the team in general, like you said, it's always weird to bet against health, right? Like I feel like the
Yeah,
narrative coming into this season was like, Dolphins are gonna be trash because Tua is gonna be down come week 4. And it's like, man, like how long can you count on people to do that?
yeah,
Like this is really unfortunate that these guys have been going through this. It's not like they choose to wake up and just be
yeah,
glass, right? Like
for
that's
sure.
how people I, hey, sports fans are the most brutal out there, and who could blame them, right? It comes from passion.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you got to look at things realistically, right? These aren't these guys' faults at all. And if there is any fault to find, you would hope that they will. And I think, like you said, man, as far as dialing things in, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Zion looks. And Brandon Ingram's a baller, man. That game had me shook because every time he was getting the ball in that playing game, he was torching us, and I think
yeah,
he
he
could
went
do that
crazy.
against
Yeah,
anyone. I think he could do that against anyone. So, yeah, there's no way this team is a play-in team next season. Mark it. No matter what happens, they're not in the play-in. I think they're going to be straight to the playoffs. But, whew, that's my bold prediction. Our number threes are out of the way. I'm gonna
it's
let
so crazy that we picked each other's teams like that. The chemistry, man, the symmetry right here.
Yes, sir. And I was like, I'm gonna leave my teams out of this entirely. That's how I looked at
That's
this,
what I said
literally.
too. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not even saying it because it's a homer thing. I legitimately feel this way about your team too. So yeah, I agree, man. It's a good year to be fans of these teams, man. We're gonna have
Yeah.
some fun stuff to look at. But next up for my number two, obviously this one we dove into a little bit. I've got the Boston Celtics, man. I think as far as once again all the moves that they made, Drew, you can speak to how much of a dog Drew Holiday is. That's another player, in my opinion, that whenever people slander him and they're talking about it, I nod my head and I'm just like, oh yeah, you just don't watch. Like, and that's cool. You feel me? That's
Yeah.
cool. But Drew Holiday Day is really that dude, and I can't wait to see, man, if Joe Mazzulla can really unlock Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and not force them into a role where they have to be that distributor. They can be on the wing, find easy opportunities to attack, and put themselves in the best position to really be the all-star players that they are and cut down on those turnovers. Like I think this team could really be a force on offense. And you mentioned defensively, man. Like I love all Al Horford and everything he brings to the game. Another guy that I will rep for life just because of his little stint with us. Just always, whenever I got a chance, I was talking about how he's a baller and people don't understand. But all around, man, the Celtics are looking good, fun to watch. And I love that, like you said, it's a fresh look at this. Like, on top of everything else, this isn't going to be the same style of basketball. And I think that's something they needed in order to clean up a lot of the mistakes we saw throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Boston was my number two as well. So we go ahead and just continue the symmetry that we're seeing here with our picks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this team. And it's weird to say because people don't think about defense in this way, but I'm really looking forward to the defense on this team. Like, really looking forward to see how they shut people down, how they play. Like with pick and roll, you can play it in so many different ways, right? You can have your big man drop, you can switch it. You can try to hedge and have your big man get back. And that's one thing that's going to be a question mark for them. Without Robert Williams now, Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford, do you go with him to start? And with Al Horford, we know he's more versatile as far as being able to switch. He's getting a little older now. So do you still trust him to be able to switch in that same type of way and stay in front of these quicker guards? For example, if you're playing against Sacramento, who's another interesting team, and you have to switch in front of De'Aaron Fox, who's maybe the fastest player in the league, do you trust Al Horford to do that at this age? You're asking a lot of anybody to do that, right? But do you have a different style of defense now? But you still have so many different styles you can play. So if you take out Kristaps Porzingis, but Al Horford in, you can switch up your defense. So me being just a basketball nerd, I'm looking forward to seeing how they defend and if they're truly going to be just this shut down defensive team, because that excites me seeing somebody locked up. Like, yo, I'm going to lock you up. You're not going to be able to do nothing about it. I love seeing that. And that's one of the reasons Drew Holiday is one of my favorite players because he's going to bring that. I know people probably are still having that image in their head of Jimmy Butler kind of cooking him in the playoffs. That was a one-off. Don't let that ruin your image of what Drew Holiday is defensively. Like, he's an absolute monster. Jimmy Butler just was on a different planet in that first round last year. But Drew Holiday, man, along with Derek White, who's a very good defender as well, like, dude is locked up as well. So this defense is going to be crazy. I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Hey, and I'm gonna be honest. I think this is the most underrated move of the entire offseason. My boy Derek White joined the fucking bald club, baby. He gave up on the dream. The full potential is now going to be unlocked. Just the aerodynamics, right? Like, you could tell before there was some wind draft there that was preventing some of these drives from being successful. Unlocked full
Yeah.
potential there. Cue
I,
ball,
I definitely
Kirk White.
see I definitely see about 2 or 3 inches added to the vertical off of the fact that he no longer has the hair back there because it was receding, it was bad, and it seems like once he went up, the hair that was back here was catching some wind. So now he's not going to catch the wind anymore. You can see him just taking a clean takeoff on these dunks. I can see him catching a few bites this year with the extra vertical that he has because of
Yeah, better watch the lane because Derek
it.
White is coming, baby. Oh man, I love it. Next up, my number one pick. I think this one is pretty obvious, man.
Yeah.
The Detroit Pistons. No, I'm joking. I'm going with the Milwaukee Bucks, the
Hey, shout
new
out to Monty
look.
Williams getting that money out there in Detroit, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think they're a sneaky good team too. Shout out to Kay Cunningham, man. One of
Yeah.
the real bright spots in my opinion of young guards in the league, man. I love the way he plays. But in all seriousness, we already touched on a little bit, but the Bucks are just so crazy to think about, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was memeing them last season because, like you said, Jimmy Butler went fucking nuclear on top of the unfortunate circumstances with all the injuries and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So a lot of people wrote him off and I didn't get it, but now definitely they've got everyone's attention, man. We
Yeah.
already kind of talked about the X and O's and the ways we could look at this, but I think it's fascinating that you really fire your coach after all the success that he had as well. So
Yeah.
that's another part of this that people are overlooking. I'm having a brain fart right now. Who is their coach for this season?
I have to look up his name again. But yeah, it's that first year head coach. This is not a guy who had previous head coaching experience. That's why his name
Mm,
doesn't come right to mind. And that's going to be something that's really interesting is how this first year head coach handles being the guy who is the head of a team, Adrian Griffin, how Adrian Griffin handles being a guy who is now in charge or set to be in charge of the play calling and how this team is going to approach each and every night with a team that's expected to be great. That's tough for first year head coach. Like, usually for first year head coach, you want to put them in a situation where they can win, But if they do overachieve, it's like, okay, now this coach is doing his thing. You don't want to put them in a situation normally where it's championship or bust right out the gate. That's tough. And I'm not really familiar with Adrian Griffin. I have to do, more research on him and see like what his history is. But it's going to be tough on him for sure with these type of high expectations. You think about somebody being a first year head coach going into this type of situation, man.
It's like
I'm
Joe
trying to think of,
Mazzulla last year.
yeah, Joe
Uh-huh.
Mazzulla. Yeah, Joe Mazzulla. And that one was a little different because he definitely wasn't going to be the guy if the whole, Ime Udoka stuff didn't happen. So this one's a little different because this is what they wanted. But it is weird that, just a few years removed from an NBA Finals championship, you fire your head coach after, it's a disappointing season for sure. Like, I don't care what Giannis says, it's a failure. It's a failure to lose in the first round as a team that was expected to win the championship. But to fire him, and they did the same thing out here in Phoenix. When Bucks won the championship, it was against the Phoenix Suns, and now Phoenix is a totally different team. And Devin Booker, literally a team that made the finals 2 years ago, has one player from that team left. Like, that's nuts. So, like, when you think about the change and fast turnover that's happening in the NBA, man, let's let you know how brutal this business can be. But Adrian Griffin, man, he got a lot on his shoulders.
Such a great point, man. And I think that goes across all sports. Here's my little wild theory here. I think fantasy sports has impacted the way that these trades across all these leagues, people don't give a fuck anymore. Like immediately, if things aren't working out, they're willing to pivot. And then we see a lot of different scenarios where guys end up not working out in their initial landing spot. But then they're like, how the hell did you get him for a steal? A great example of someone who could be that this season, Chris Duarte from the Pacers. He got traded to Sacramento, and we've seen what Sacramento has been able to do with guys like that. He's been a little inconsistent with his outside shot, but as far as the moxie and being willing to shoot it, like he is that guy. Sacramento's gonna love him. Um, there's just so much more of that in today's, no matter what sport it is. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love that theory. And of course, GMs would never, cop to it. But I love that theory that, people are starting to take more of a fantasy approach to their roster making for sure. And we're seeing that, especially in NBA, where you have these trades happen. Even in NFL, you're starting to see a little bit more where teams are willing to say, man, fuck them picks. And just like willing to say that. We saw it with the Rams, and the Rams were like, hey, we're just gonna, just go all in, and you're not going to have any, first round picks for a while, but hey, it worked out. They won a Super Bowl. So maybe that is the approach that teams are going to take and say, hey, we're just going to go with a fantasy style approach. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we can say we gave it our all, and fans can't be mad at that. So I definitely like that theory right there. But yeah, to just round off our countdown, I agree with you. Number one, Milwaukee. I'm so excited to see this team and what they're going to do. And like I said, the first year head coach, I'm also excited to see how he coaches, what's his approach, what he wants to do. And if it works out. So there's a lot there, and this team is very, very interesting. Of course, an honorable mention for me, of course, is Phoenix and that team and what they're going to do as well, with Frank Vogel being a defensive guy with a very offensively heavy team. How does that work out there in Phoenix? So it's the NBA, man. I'm super excited. Preseason is going to be coming up soon. So you'll be seeing updates from me watching preseason games and all that type of stuff, man. I'm super hyped.
Heck yeah, man. And I figured before we move on from the NBA, I wanted to ask you this because I was really thinking about this a lot. As someone who is a noted fan of the New Orleans Pelicans, how has your love for Phoenix changed as you grew into this role? Like, I'm just curious. Like,
Yeah.
what is that dynamic like, right? Like, at the end of the day, you still got your team, right? But like, it's a different relationship now you have with the Suns, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely rooting for the Suns because you want the team that you're covering to be good, right? Because I covered the Phoenix Mercury for a few years, and some of the years they were good, some of they were bad. And the years they were bad, as a beat reporter of a bad team, it sucks. It sucks. Like you just because like night in and night out, you're like, what question am I going to ask now about the way they lost this game? Like, how am I going to approach writing this article? And it's just like, okay. So you definitely want to have an exciting team to cover and root for, and then you're going to start to know these guys better, right? And so I'm fresh to it with the Suns. Yesterday was my first official day covering them at media day. But you're even in that, you see a different side of him. Like I mentioned with Grayson Allen, a lot of people don't like him, say he's dirty, but then you see him on the podium answering the questions. You're like, oh, seems like a nice guy. Seems like a cool dude. And then you start to root for these people. Like my WNBA team is the Mercury because of that. Like because I covered them and start to know the team, like, okay, that's my squad. Because New Orleans doesn't have a WNBA team. I'm not a trader for that one, so I can go with that squad. But I'm always gonna be a Pelicans fan, always. But Phoenix is a team now that I have a rooting interest in. But I'm definitely always gonna be Pelicans. But when it comes to covering the Suns and Pelicans game, I'll have to hide my fandom for for that moment. But as soon as I get outside and the Pelicans win, I'll be celebrating.
I was about to say, any of you Suns beat reporters, if you're listening, make sure you're side eyeing when that New Orleans comes over to Phoenix, because things might be a little interesting on the sidelines. But yeah, man, that's a dope dynamic and so interesting to think. I always sort of looked at it that way too. Like, yeah, I want to cover MMA, and that's my dream long term, right? To be going to all
Yeah.
these events and asking all these questions. But like, is that gonna affect my love for the game? Like, how does that change things? So, was curious to ask that, but
I think
I
it will increase it. Like as somebody who's been able to go to a few boxing events as a journalist, it made me appreciate boxing even more and appreciate the boxers even more. So I think once the opportunity comes for you, and not if, when, like you're going to get that opportunity. When it comes for you, you're going to be even more of a fan of the sport and of the fighters because you're already so appreciative of what they do. So I think that once you even have those relationships and build them, you're going to be even more of a fan of the sport.
yes, sir. Thank you, bro. Thank you. It's that time, baby. The NFL season is here. We are approaching week 5.
Mm.
And it's so crazy how fast things change, right? There's so many
Yeah.
different things to talk about, so many things that from the if we look back to the start of the season, we're like, damn, we really thought that was gonna happen, huh? Like every year, there's always something, which is what keeps us coming, right? It keeps us
Yeah.
needing that fix. And I honestly didn't realize how much I missed football until these
Yeah,
last couple weeks. Like
for sure.
I've been having the time of my life, man. Sometimes I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm gonna ask you right off the top. I was getting mad at those double Monday night games because as someone that has all these fantasy teams and things that I'm all hyped for, I like to watch a game or two by itself. Like, is that too
Yeah.
much to ask for when I got usually like 3 screens up? If my Ravens are playing, I got red zone up, and then I like to
Yeah.
have like a key matchup up too, and I'm just here ping ponging. It's not as easy as y'all think, man.
Yeah.
So please miss me with these weird double Monday night games. I don't need this. I mean, and y'all not even running red zone for this. Like it's not. No, thank you. But how do you feel
Yo,
about the double Monday night games?
I am 100% with you. It doesn't make any sense. The whole point of Thursday night football, Sunday night football, and Monday night football is to have a primetime matchup where America is watching these two teams play. This is the chance to watch one matchup that's supposed to be one of the best matchups of the week. And I feel like the NFL's gotten to a point where they're like, oh, we can just put up anything now and people are going to watch, which is true. They've gotten to the point where they have a chokehold on the sports world and they can put up anything, right? And I include my Saints in that. The night where they had the Saints and Panthers, and I believe it was Browns and Steelers at the same time, pretty much. Saints Panthers could have been a regular Sunday night or a Sunday game. And that same week, you had, I believe it was Kansas City and Jacksonville was playing against each other. That could have been the Monday night game. Or you could have put Cleveland Pittsburgh by itself. But Saints Panthers, I understand Bryce Young is number one overall pick, so people are going to be interested in that. The Saints got Derek Carr, so people want to see how that works out. But that matchup didn't deserve Monday night. If you're going to have, like, no need to have two. Just have the one game. That's the reason we have it, so you can pay attention to that. And like you said, Sunday at, over here on the West Coast, 10 o'clock, that's when we start all the craziness of watching all these multiple games. And what I normally do is I'll go to like a Dave and Buster's or something like that and watch. And I'll have the Saints game now I'm watching, and whatever game is next to it, I'll be like, I can do those two. But I'm not trying to like go crazy with it because then you're not watching any game. You're just watching highlights at that point. So I just have two games that I concentrate on. Of course, the Saints game is the one that has my primary attention. But then as soon as a play ends, I'll go to the other one and see what's going on. So I can do two. I've mastered two. But as people that like watch four at one time, I don't know how they do that.
Dude, I'm notorious for multitasking. I remember days where like there'll be like a boxing match on, a MMA fight, a Saturday night football game, and I got all this shit, and I'm just here for trying to take in everything, just literally looking like a astral projection. Just if you followed my eyes with a laser, like it'll just be all over the place, dude. So yeah, man, give me some time to breathe over here.
Hmm.
On the spot, how do we fix this, right? Because you already know we come up with the best ideas here at LDS and TSG to try to fix the things that bother us in these leagues. And the first thing that came to mind for me, right? I'm not a big Saturday football guy. Miss me with that. What's the difference if you had that same Monday night, well, Monday slate, but
Yeah.
you started the first one at 1? What's the fucking difference? We get both games. They have their own slots, completely different times. Like who loses there?
The only thing I would say about that is that they want to make sure they get the people who are at work to have that chance to watch the game. So with that, now you mentioned the Saturday games. Every once in a while, these like in December, once college football season gets into like their bowl season, the NFL will do a few Saturday night games. So I wouldn't be mad at they're already like trying to get multiple games throughout the week. So I wouldn't be mad at a Thursday night, Saturday night, and Monday night game. If you want to have 4 primetime games, Thursday or three, I should say, Thursday, Saturday. Oh yeah, four. I'm sorry. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That should be the primetime lineup. And the whole reason is for those primetime games is to have one game that we're watching that we all can talk about, that we all can conversate about, and just concentrate on. Like, there's no reason to have 2 games on Monday Night Football. So my thing would be, if you have 2 games that you want to put on Monday night, put one on Saturday. That's fine. Just make sure the previous week that team didn't play on Monday or something like that. But outside of that, make sure the schedule sets up. And we know Saturday can work because they've done it before with games. They've even done Friday games. Like the NFL's so greedy, like, oh, the NBA is trying to have Christmas. Nah, we gonna come on Christmas even though it's on Friday. Like what? Like that's bananas. Like, yo, just let them have it. Like you're good. Like just have the games you have. So we know the NFL can do it. So I would have Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night as the prime time games.
I like it. Yeah, they try to get their lick back for those Thanksgiving games. They're not having it. They're like, yeah, they're trying to take over. Oh yeah, hilarious, bro. As far as this season, dude, there's so many different directions we could go with this. So I'm hyped. Our first top 3 in the NFL world is our top 3 surprises across the NFL season. I'm gonna throw to you first. What's your number 3, Damian?
Top 3 surprises of the NFL season. Number 3, man, I gotta go with how bad the New York Giants are. I didn't expect them to be good. Like I had them taking a step back, but they didn't just take a step back; they fell down the damn stairs. Like it's been, like it's been so bad watching the Giants this year. 10 sacks last night. No, like to get sacked 10 times, like I cover high school football here in Arizona. That's something you'll see when like you have a really good high school team versus a team that just the school that just made a high school team this year. That's something you'll see in those type of matchups where it's like, oh, this school needs time to develop their high school football program. They're going against a powerhouse. That's what you'll see there. But to see that in an NFL game where a quarterback is just getting beat up, right? And my dad, he's been on a few of my podcasts. Usually I have him on for Father's Day. He played quarterback in college for a little bit. And the reason he only played for a little bit is that he had a bad offensive line. So he always tells a story about like, he's like, yo, I would say hut and get hit. Hut, boom. he was like, he was like, I literally was running for my life the entire time. And was like, yeah, I'm just gonna concentrate on my studies. So this is how you make computer engineers is by having bad offensive lines. That's what happened to my dad. So Daniel Jones, at least he's already in the pros and is making his money and got his big contract because this happened to him in college. We wouldn't have him now. He would be somewhere, designing stuff or being an accountant doing something else because the Giants, man, I can't believe that they're this bad.
Damn. I left them off the list, but I'm mad at myself because I agree, man. It was crazy. I remember coming into the season, I kind of felt like this was the prove it moment for that day ball run, right? Like in hindsight, I know Pete Carroll's salty, man, because if you ask me, I feel like that should have been his award, but at the same time, I don't know what it is, bro. I don't know how to fix it. Like I honestly thought the addition of Darren Waller would help their line a little.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked out at all. I mean, obviously losing Saquon so early is always a bad spot to be in, but honestly, as far as like outcomes, the Giants sucking does not surprise me, bro. Like that's such a regular thing that I've lived throughout my entire life. So they're once again the New Jersey Giants, if you ask me. And moving forward, man, I feel bad for people who honestly have devoted their lives as far as the fan base because it's happened on both sides, right? In New Jersey at this point. I'm gonna keep saying that, by the way. That's my bid. The New Jersey Jets and the New Jersey Giants. It's happened on both sides, right? Both of
Yeah.
these teams have been historically trash, and every time we get that hope, right? It was kind of like the Yankees and the Mets this year. Like the hype was there, championship level. We got a chance, and then come week 4, they just out here getting cooked, bro. So yeah, Giants suck, but it ain't too surprising for me. For my number 3, dude, there was so many different angles and ways we could have gone with this, but I went with A Chain, baby. I didn't expect him to be
Mm.
able to ball out like this.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I'm going to talk to you about my dynasty team a lot here, okay? Because I'm in my
Okay.
bag, all right? Dynasty is a completely different experience, right, than redraft. Have you ever done a dynasty league, Damien?
I haven't. I want to do one. I haven't done one yet.
Oh man, this has been my first foray into dynasty, and I'm in 2 leagues right now with my family, so it's added pressure, right? We talking shit on all fronts, so I'm like, man, I really got to make sure I'm cooking this season. So I liked where my team was in one league, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna go all in and contend this year. I didn't like my roster on another league, on my second league, so I was like, I'm gonna be tanking. So I got the best of both worlds, right? In this dynamic this off season, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. One of my cousins, he didn't have no running backs. So I'm shopping him. I'm like, I think Christian McCaffrey's a little too injury prone. I'm not trusting him.
Yeah.
I'm going to trade it to the guy that his second option at RB is Devin A. Chain.
Wow.
And now this dude is cooking our entire league.
Yeah.
And listen to
That's the
this.
definition of a win-win trade right there.
Heck, and no, so I didn't take A Chain. He still has
Oh.
A Chain. This is where the copium comes in, Damien. You can see I'm excited to talk about my pain right now. So I lost out on CMC. My idea was I think he's a little bit more injury prone than this one guy I'm targeting. Let me see if I could get him. The picks I got for CMC, I used them to acquire Nick Chubb. and my and my season just blew up right in front of my face as I
Yeah.
watched the team that I traded away for cook this entire year. So I said all this to say HN is a baller, man. I think my new way to understand NFL offenses and NFL players coming in through the draft is forget this nonsense about he's undersized. He's undersized. I get why it's a problem, right? But
Yeah.
in today's NFL, we getting away with that shit a little bit. A couple years
Yes.
ago, it wouldn't be working out this way. Let's be honest. But now I think we really need to reevaluate those things. And I think having bases in other competitive sports, regardless of what they are, right? I think those are the guys to look at. Puka Nakua, Devin A. Chain, all guys that have these other bases that are coming to NFL and just cooking. So random shouts. Devin A. Chain is that dude. And it's been crazy to watch because it's not like he's just out there ball like you would expect an RB to do, right? Like someone that's
Yeah.
just out there bruising through and getting multiple scores through the line. No, they're running up all types of gadget plays for this guy, and they have different roles for their backs on that team too. Like Miami's super fun to watch, and I think they are specifically getting the most out of him, which you love to see from a team. So Devin A. Chain, keep balling, baby.
Nah, that's a great shout right there. He's been killing it. Man, the Nick Chubb injury definitely hurt because he was my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. He was my pick in all 3 of my fantasy leagues. I had Nick Chubb. So, yes, including our real deal league that we're both in, I had Nick Chubb, and it hurt my soul to have to drop him from the roster. But yeah, I was watching, of course, I was watching both the Saints game and game where he got hurt. that Monday night, and oh man, my soul left my body when I saw the replay on Twitter because they didn't even show it on ESPN. So you knew it was bad because they didn't show it on ESPN. So I went on Twitter, and of course, somebody slowed it down, and I saw how bad it was, and I was like, of course, this season is over. And man, I was just sitting there, and like I said, my Saints were winning, and I was winning my bet with my homeboy Tel Shakur from the Three the Hardaway podcast. I won my bet with him, and he had to pay for my dinner, so I was still somewhat happy. But man, that kind of ruined my night when I saw Nick Chubb go down like that, and not only for my fantasy teams, but because I thought he was going to have a monster year this year.
I feel you, bro. And you know what's the gravy on top of this team that I thought was going to contend this year? Guess who my RB2 was?
Who?
J.K. Dobbins.
Wow.
And this is dynasty, bro. These are players
Yeah.
that I have forever until they
Yeah.
retire. So I'm like, God damn, like, could there have been a worst case scenario?
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
crazy.
So yeah, and listen to my team. On this offseason, I was able to trade and get Justin Jefferson. So my starting receivers were Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, like and D Hop. So I'm like, damn, I'm about to be cooking this year.
Yeah.
Everyone, literally, I had the highest projection in the league, and come
Yeah.
week 4, I haven't got one win, and I have no picks for the next 2 years. Like, I'm fucked,
Oh.
bro. I'm fucked. So literally, I just traded. All right, and then I'm done with Dynasty after this, I promise. But I just traded to try to rebound, right? I traded AJ Brown. I still got Justin Jefferson, so I'm like, let me try to get the most out of the value here. I traded AJ Brown and D Hop for Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, and a 2025 first. So I'm trying to build back up, baby, slowly
Yeah.
but surely. And I think both of those guys got some promising stuff to come in the future. But enough of my dynasty league. What is your number 3?
My number two,
Sorry
number
about that.
two.
Yep.
So, but just to piggyback off what you were saying earlier about teams building in that way, they go all in. So, unfortunately for you, you went all in, and it hasn't worked out because of the injuries. And that's the other end of going all in, because if you have that one big injury, it can ruin your season, and you don't have any backup plan going forward. So it definitely can go both ways. And speaking of going all in, the Denver Broncos went all in on Sean Payton as head coach. And they now on the winning board. They got their first win over the Chicago Bears. And even in that game, they were down at one point, I believe, by 21 points. So you look at this Denver Broncos team, 1-3. In week 3, they gave up 70 points. Like, I feel like that has to be like reiterated and said again, even though we're past the week, it has to be brought up at least once a month. They gave up 70 points in an NFL game, 10 touchdowns, like 7 times 10. They like it. You mentioned Achan and Mostert had 4 touchdowns each. Like, it's bananas. And the thing is, this defense was good last year. Like, prior to the game against the Rams, where it was clear that they just gave up on Nathaniel Hackett and was like, "We just want you out of here. We're done." Prior to that game, they had only given up more than 17 points like once that year. So, talking about football last year, the whole talk was, man, that offense has to do something because the defense is doing their job and the offense is not providing anything. Kind of similar to my Saints right now, where the defense is amazing and the offense is not doing anything for you. So you look at Denver now, it's reversed, where the offense is actually decent. Russell Wilson's playing decent this year. It's been overshadowed because they're not winning, but he's been decent. But that defense, like, how is it this bad? How is it this bad? And even Justin Fields, who has arguably been a bust on Sunday, completed like 90% of his passes against you guys. Like, it's bananas what's going on in Denver right now. So that's a big surprise for me. I thought for sure, because being a Saints fan, I know Sean Payton's a hell of a coach. I know what he's capable of. And to see this team being this bad, I know he's not a defensive guy. It's not his thing, but he still has to hold some responsibility for that as well. But man, Denver being this bad and barely beating Chicago, being their victory, being their big thing, is super surprising to me.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm gonna just tip my hand here because my number 1 pick was the Broncos defense. I
Mm,
couldn't believe the regression
yeah.
there. And I think it's so easy to point at Sean Payton. I think throughout the rest of the year, that narrative is going to cool a little bit. I think, like you said, man, Russ is balling. So stop with that narrative, please, because
Yeah.
once again, if you're not watching, it's okay, but
Yeah.
you don't got to make it so obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, god damn, it's clearly the defense that's the issue. So yeah, if you ever got an opportunity to stream somebody that's facing the Broncos this year, throw them in, because I don't know what it's so weird watching too, because you'll see times where they do get a big play out of their edge rushers or a big play out of Sertan. You're like, man, like this looks like it should be a good defense, and
Yeah.
somehow it just keeps falling apart, man. So we'll see what happens later on in the season. I honestly felt like after that game against where they gave up all those points against Miami, he should have got fired that night. Your defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
I don't even
for
know who
sure.
that is. But get him out
Yeah.
of there. And he's
Now,
still somehow hanging
Vance
on.
Joseph has had a good career in the NFL, but I definitely would not have been shocked if he was fired after that game. Like 70 points in an NFL game. And the fact that, honestly, if they didn't come back against the Bears, I wouldn't have been shocked if he would have been fired after that game. Because the Bears' offense has been putrid, like absolutely horrible. And you got Justin Fields out there looking like Ohio State Justin Fields. And, like what's happening right now? So I'm not gonna be shocked if he gets fired sometime during the season. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, for sure, man. So my number one is off the board, but I'm fine with that because it's so funny. My last two picks, the way I looked at them, because I feel like it's the same situation, but in reverse. Hear me out here. My number two is the Rams offense. The Rams offense last season was trash, bro.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. And I think a big part of it was everyone has been given the side eye to Cam Akers. I think deservedly so. Good luck to him in Minnesota now. Obviously got some nice chunk plays in his debut, but um, I didn't expect this influx of youth. Like I'm gonna be honest, I did know that Puka Nacua was a baller, and I'll toot my horn here. I got him for a third round pick in that league that I'm tanking in. So in the tank league, funny
Yeah.
enough, I have more wins in the tank league than in the league that I was trying to contend. Hilarious, but
Yeah.
um, just what's been most exciting for me is everyone was writing off Stafford, and clearly the guy gets the ball where he needs it to be, and all the over the middle of the field stuff, like they're just getting good action, which you love to see. And Kyron Williams is a baller too. Like it's very rare that you get a good production out of a back this early. I think their offensive line deserves a lot more credit than they've been getting as well, because I think on both sides they're able to protect, which is rare. I'm a little nervous about this Rams team, man. I was shocked that they lost to the Bengals, given the way both of
Yeah.
those teams were playing going in. I think they're going to be sneaky this year, man. Look out for them. Surprisingly, um, in that game against the Colts, I feel like their defense kind of let them down a little bit. Things they eased
Yeah.
up on the reins a little, but just super exciting to see. Obviously, a rookie balling out the way Puka is, and Tutu was a player too, man. Like it's another guy that you look at and you're like, man, this shit wouldn't have worked a couple years ago, but now I see the vision. Uh,
Yeah.
this team's going to be fun to watch, and from going from what they were last season on offense to this now, um, don't just blame it on Stafford being banged up. I think a lot of things needed to be overhauled, and it just seemed like they hit on every pick in every situation for this season.
Oh, for sure. And whenever you have a player who used to be good or is thought to be kind of maybe washed up and he reminds you of who he is, I like to say he had his Roy Jones moment. Y'all must have forgot. And that's what he was saying. Hey, man, y'all must have forgot who I am. I'm Matthew Stafford. I can still sling that rock. And he's definitely showing that this year. I've been shocked by this. I didn't expect this team to be good at all. So to see them do this without Cooper Kupp and to be balling like this offensively, and I picked up their running back when Nick Chubb went down. That was the first thing I went and did was pick him up on one of my leagues, and he's been balling. So yeah, I love that pick up the Rams offense as one of the surprises because I've been shocked by that.
Great pickup too, because it happened so fast. There was a moment there where everyone was rushing to get Josh Kelly because Eckler just went down. So
Yeah,
everyone's spending their fab there. I'm like, okay, I'll take Kyron Williams for free.
yeah,
All these leagues. So yeah, that was perfect timing there, man. Yeah, I was just so shocked with the pure turnaround. It's just like the situation with Denver. Broncos defense was what we thought was going to carry them this season, and
Yeah.
it's flipped around. Same thing for me. I thought if the Rams were going to do anything, it would have been on defense, and they're somehow cooking on offense. So you'll have to see it.
Yeah.
What is your final pick, brother? Because you took mine.
So my final pick for my surprise, the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans look like a legit squad. The first week offensively, they struggle against your Baltimore Ravens, but after that, yo, CJ Stroud is a baller, a absolute baller. Their defense, they even gave you guys some trouble that first week. Like it took a while for you guys to get going because that was I mentioned earlier how I watched the two games that happened to be the game right next to my Saints game that week. But so I was watching it and yo, that defense is for real. So you have a good defense because you bring in a former defensive coordinator as your head coach in D'Amico Ryans, and you see the defense balling. Offensively, CJ Stroud is really starting to find his stride. And this team may surprise some people and win the AFC South. Not giving up on Jacksonville yet, but Jacksonville better get together because Houston may be for real.
I couldn't agree more. Random stat that I find fascinating. I think it was the last 3 years the Texans got their first win against the
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Insane. And I agree, man. I thought they were going to be right there battling for the number one pick again.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a long season. We still got a lot of things to figure out, but I couldn't agree with you more. He doesn't look like a rookie. And this
Oh,
was the rookie that they were like, we're going to be suspect about. He's small. Remember? That's the
yeah.
key word here. So I think moving forward, I'm really going to pivot on the way I understand what is NFL ready and what that
Yeah.
means, because clearly with the explosion of offenses across the league, things are changing around here. And honestly, I don't mind it. I think it was funny that first week was kind of slow for fantasy purposes, right? There wasn't a lot of big performances. After that, nobody's been complaining on that front. It's been a
Oh, for
lot
sure.
of and it feels like different teams every week too. So you love to see that. Obviously, we're only a quarter of the way through, but a lot more football to watch. And now we get into our second group of top three discussions for the NFL. Top three players or situations to look out for the rest of the season. I love this little one here because there's no limit on what the fuck we could be talking about here. Like there's so many different options.
Yeah.
Um, I think the way I try to lay this out is to try to really look at what little thing needs to be tweaked to get things to the next level. And right now, my first pick, my number three option is the LA Chargers secondary, man. You remember when there was a fire sale in the off season and they balled out. They got JC, they got
Yeah.
Khalil Mack. I thought hands down they were going to be a great defensive team. Obviously, last year they weren't as terrible as they are this year, but now things are kind of falling apart, man. And I don't know what it is. I just think specifically they need to figure things out in the secondary, man. They're giving up so much yards, and for a team that puts up so much points, they're in close games every week. It's insane. This is a team that I think as the season goes on is going to be looking much better. I feel like they came out a little slow early on, but the offense is cooking, man. Keenan Allen is every year. I think it's going to be the regression year, and he just keeps balling out, man. Love to see him throw a touchdown too to Mike Williams before he went out for the season as well. Unfortunately, um, I think Quentin Johnson is going to be able to step into that role nicely. So on offense, we're all accounted for. We don't got no problems over here. You're able
Yeah.
to make it happen without Eckler for 2 weeks. We
Yeah.
need to figure out the defensive side of the ball because we can't keep winning in these 40-point shootouts, man. Every time I see the Chargers play now, this is going to be a random shout. But I get flashbacks to that game. I think it was last season against the Browns, where it was like a 50-point shootout. And I'm like, is this just going to be the experience watching the Chargers from now on?
Yeah.
It's pain watching that defense, and I'm sure they understand how much they need to get it together. When you have so many big names and you're looking this bad, it's rough.
Yeah, and the thing is, Brandon Staley's supposed to be a defensive guy. That was the reason he was hired, is that he was supposed to be this defensive, mind. And It hasn't been that. Offensively, they've been good, been very good. Kellen Moore has proven to be a good offensive coordinator there for the Chargers so far. And it's so weird because Brandon Staley makes decisions as if he has a great defense. Going for it on 4th and 1 on your own 24 is the decision you make when you say, "Oh, I got a defense that's going to lock it down." And they got lucky, Kirk Cousins, but they got lucky in that moment. But for anything to this defense, man, how can it be this bad? Same thing with Denver. It doesn't make sense with the talent they have. When you look at that roster, the talent they have, the money they spent, and guys they spent money on being healthy scratches. You mentioned Jay-Z Jackson being healthy scratches because he's just not good enough. That's rough. That's rough. So yeah, I'm with you on that pick right there. I definitely want to see if this team improves defensively because you can't win with the defense being that bad. No matter how talented your quarterback is, how good the wide receivers are, you're not going to win with the defense being that bad.
Dude, and how long is this JC saga gonna go? Like, I think that
Yeah,
if you look at it, if things continue this way, like that might be the worst contract in the league. Literally
yeah.
the worst contract in the league, and that's a very hard thing to do, in my opinion. When Danny Jones is out here throwing nickels, he ain't throwing dimes no more. I promise. There are no dimes to be caught. It's just a whole lot of damn nickels. But yeah, man, it's crazy out there.
Yeah, there are Canadian coins. You got
Got to change up the value. Start getting this paper
yeah,
money. What's your
for
number
sure.
three?
My number three, I gotta go with my hometown Saints. Derek Carr and his offense. What's going to happen? Is this going to improve? This was supposed to be the move that got the Saints over the hump because the defense has been playing very, very well. The defense was okay against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had a good offensive game plan, were able to do some things, but even in that game, Tampa Bay scored 24 points, but 7 of those points came because of a turnover by our offense. Our defense has had our offense in the right position to win each game. And our offense is just not doing it, right? Against Green Bay, a lot of people are going to concentrate on the fact that our defense gave up 18 points in the fourth quarter. They were exhausted. Our offense
Mhm.
could not stay on the field to give our defense a break. So eventually, of course, they got tired. And you got Jordan Love, all credit to him. He was throwing dimes out there in the fourth quarter, and they were able to come back. But if the offense is able to get 3 more points, one more touchdown in the second half, we win that game. And credit to Jameis. A lot of people going to like Derek Carr got hurt in that game. Jameis did lead a drive that should have been for the game-leading field goal. Our field goal kicker got out there and choked. So our offense just needs to get it together. Derek Carr yesterday or Sunday, he goes out there and throws. If I remember correctly, it was like 37 passes, and as far as average, like 3.5 yards a pass. Like your average running back is getting more yards than that per rush. So our offense needs to find a way to be more aggressive, go down the field, because when you're trying to score on 13, 14, 15 play drives every time, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to settle for field goals. And that's what you saw against Tampa Bay, 3 field goals. Like if you get those 3 touchdowns and you don't turn the ball over right at their goal line, we win that game. So our offense and Derek Carr needs to get together.
For sure. And it's tough that he's dealing with the injury too at the same time, like trying to figure out
Yeah,
all these different things. I always thought that Carr was a baller, man. So I think he's gonna return to form at some point. I think not having Kamara was big too. He had some instant impact, even though obviously things were still a little rough. I think once we get synced up with Olave, things are gonna start cooking because there have been a couple balls that I've seen either overthrown, underthrown. Seems like they're
yeah.
not really there yet. But once they get there, how do you feel about this? I think in my opinion, they should have just been famous for these cookies like Jameis. Like, just throw them in there. I get it. The revenge game. I know that historically, what is this? I think 2 seasons they haven't beat you guys. It's the first times that they beat you guys in the regular season, if I'm correct. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
just a game where I thought there's a little grudge match potential, right? A little get back game.
Yeah,
Just felt weird to me when you considered separated shoulder like that. Anything related to your shoulders, that is the most complex joint in the body, and anyone that's never dealt with injuries to that area don't understand how complex it is. I'll leave it
yeah.
at that. I remember one time training jujitsu, I got an arm lock put on me, a key lock, and I never felt a pain like that in my life. Like in my
Yeah.
life, no matter what else it was, when he was torquing on my shoulder like that, like I was like, this shit feels like I'm getting permanently damaged right now, bro. So the
Yeah.
fact that he was able to play at all is kind of a remarkable thing to me. But it also feels very unnecessary. Like you always
Yeah. We
doing
have a
these
good
things with
backup.
exactly, and you have two good backups because you're gonna throw the Wildcat in there as
Yeah.
well. So I didn't get that, but I just got to give one shout out. One shout out. Every time I get the chance to do it, I do it, baby. Breesy, do you love me? He's my rookie of the year pick, man. I think he's
He's
a
been
baller.
balling.
Yeah, man,
He's been
he's
balling.
been really cooking. So I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. The defense is carrying, and the offense really needs to hurry up and follow suit. But with that being said, it's time to get to my number two pick, and we just covered it. Are the Texans a thing? That's exactly what I wrote. Are the Texans a thing? Um, D'Amico Ryans, man. I think the impact, the way they play, like you can tell, they just got those guys all in. And a
Yeah.
big part of what I didn't get coming into the season was like I immediately was like, man, they got rid of all their weapons and they just got a rookie QB. Like, we're gonna be slow out the gate for sure. I just kind of assumed that they'll be in that role for being the worst team in the league. And I didn't get how some people were still keeping them in that bottom five range after week two. Yeah, they came out and stumbled, but they're if you're watching once again, they're feisty, man. And
Yeah.
on both sides of the ball, I think they've been phenomenal. But as far as rookies go, like amazing performance through these last 3 weeks specifically, like stuff that I did not expect at all, and then really making Nico Collins and Take Dell look like real ballers. So the Texans are a thing, and in that division, man, anything is possible. So who knows, man? Sneaky good for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that pick. You already know about what I said about them earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So for my number two now, as far as the people I'm looking forward to and just seeing what they can do, Christian McCaffrey. Just looking forward to seeing if he can continue doing what he's doing for San Francisco. Like it's amazing watching what he's doing. Being somebody who covers Phoenix sports, had to watch that game where they destroyed the Cardinals. It's something you seeing Christian McCaffrey just absolutely kill it. 4 touchdowns on Sunday, and this is 13 straight games now with a touchdown. The record is 18 by LaDainian Tomlinson. Shout out to him, San Diego Charger legend. And if he can get there, which I think they're going to try to get to, he's been balling, man. And the big thing with him is health. You mentioned earlier how people were kind of just weary of him in fantasy because of that. But in that offense, he's an absolute monster, man. And Brock Purdy is proving that people don't know what they're talking about in the draft. That's what he's proven. The fact that he was Mr. Irrelevant is crazy. Like, because last year I was like, man, seems like Shanahan could just make anybody look good. But now it seems like, oh, Brock Purdy is just a good quarterback. Like he's just a good NFL quarterback. He's not great. He's not, top 10, but he's a guy, if you put him in the right system with the right players like he is in now, you see him balling. Debo, Brandon Ayuk this year, balling out. Like this team is amazing. The defense is amazing. Like San Francisco and Dallas this week, that's a huge matchup. San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
Dallas. We'll see, if Dallas can really bring it finally. But Christian McCaffrey is my standpoint on this. Like, how much can he do in this offense? What will he end up finishing with as far as yards on both catching and running touchdowns? Like, he's on pace to do something crazy this year.
I couldn't agree with you more. For 3 years running, I've been talking about how the 49ers, if you just look at the rosters on paper, have the best roster in the league. Like at
Yeah.
all skill positions on defense too. Like you just went in on the offense. Their defense is just as stacked and just as
Yeah.
productive. Insane, man. But I couldn't agree with you more, man. Brock Purdy is that dude. I remember having multiple arguments with Derek, my co-host, about
Yeah.
how hey, I'm not really worried about the Niners because we still need to figure out about Purdy. And I'm like, yeah, I know things worked out in that game with the injury, but you must not be seeing what I'm seeing. Like the dude is
Yeah.
electric. And I agree, man. As far as weapons go, like I think it's hard to not make this work, which really has me looking at Jimmy going Papa Ho and Trey Lance. Like, how did y'all not make this work? But as
Yeah,
soon as they made that trade for McCaffrey, I knew he was going to be huge, not just because of the player he is, but also the way he blocks. To have
yeah,
that additional blocker on top of Juszczyk too, I know how good he is too. We had
yeah,
him for multiple years in Baltimore. Their team is stacked, man, on both sides of the ball, and I think they could make a long case for not being undefeated for the season, but having another run like Philly had last year, where we're like, can they make it another week? Can they make it another
yeah,
week? They're going to be awesome to watch, and I feel like you kind of have to pencil them in to that conference championship game, in my opinion.
for sure. I definitely agree with that.
All right, this one I've been so hype about this last point. You don't understand. Of all the notes that I wrote, this is the most. So you ready for this one here? I do not think he should be playing this year. Not a starter. He might not be a top 64 arm in the NFL. I saw posts about this guy that said word for word, you are not allowed to use the word bust. How would you describe this player's career in one word? All the comments: disappointing, underwhelming, trash. These are the names that they were calling this man. But how the fuck did we not see that a baker was gonna come in and cook? How did we not see this? Um, I'm gonna be real with you, man. The funniest part about why I'm invested in this, I had a bet with Derek 2 seasons ago now that we still talk about randomly because nothing's panned out. Where he said he thinks there's a greater chance of Cam Newton or Colin Kaepernick being a starting quarterback for a team. Period. Just being a starting quarterback at some point,
Yeah,
then there would be the chance for Baker Mayfield to lead a team to the playoffs. And I was like, no, at some point, he's gonna make it work. And it looks so bad there for a couple
yeah,
seasons. He was roasting
yeah,
me. But I think this was another situation that was amazing to walk into. I think that's something that needs to be talked about every year, right? Situation is everything. And a lot of the people we've seen ball out, it's because of the great situations they're in. I can't deny that the Bucks have an amazing line and they have great receivers. So he's in a good spot, right? But you still need to go out there and make those plays, man. And there's been a real elevation to his game. I feel like he's finally healthy and hitting his stride. It's been awesome to watch him and Mike Evans have that connection, dude. Like, Mike Evans is a baller, and we already knew that. But
yeah,
I didn't think he would be able to capitalize this much and to keep them this relevant and in the hunt for the division was insane for me. I honestly felt I didn't understand them letting go playoff Lenny. Like, all of these
yeah,
things are starting to make sense now, and you love to see a team just pull things out by the scruff of the neck, right? Where you
yeah.
think they're going to be once again probably hunting for Caleb, and somehow they're 3-1 now and looking at contending in this league. It's crazy, man. So shout out to Baker, shout out to the Bucks, and shout out to Ruth Kalkias, bro. I'm sure she's going to be having a great time covering the Bucks this season for sure.
Nah, for sure, man. And I mentioned earlier, like we lost to the Bucks this past week, and Baker, he wasn't amazing, but he just made the plays that needed to be made. There was one play where they got a touchdown. Cam Jordan is chasing them down, and he's just kind of running around trying to make something happen. And the last second, he notices a tight end that flashes across the middle and makes the pass. He's been making those plays all year this year where he just makes the right play. And he's still going to have the bad throws. Like he had an interception that end up not costing them because the Saints turned the ball right over, like literally the next play. We turned it right back over to him. But those plays hopefully aren't the ones that cost this team later. If you're a Bucks fan, now a Saints fan, I wanted to cost them, but hopefully for Bucks fans, it doesn't cost them. And for Baker fans like yourself, maybe you'll go ahead and get this bet this year, and maybe he'll get into the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's been doing his thing. He's been making the right plays, not doing too much. That's been kind of the Baker issue in the past, where he thought he could do what he did in college. Like you're in college, he could run around and beat linebackers around the corner and bend the edge. He can't do that here. So when he does take off, now he knows, oh, I got to take off in a straight line. Get where I got to go, slide, get on to the next play. I'm running around, throw the ball away, get on to the next play. He's learned how to fight for another day now, right? And in the past, he didn't know how to do that. So I think that's a big learning curve that's helped him out a lot.
Great shout, man. Any quarterback really needs to find that dynamic, and it's a hard place to
Mm-hmm.
be, man. The pressure is real, and I think
Mm-hmm.
we're able to see what he could do behind a competent offensive line, right? Think about the fact that he made the Browns relevant at all. Just got to say that, like he single
Yeah.
handedly did that, and he still got shit on as if it was entirely his fault. Clearly, there was something there, and honestly, I didn't see it. I was talking shit week 1 too, so the fact that he was able to turn it around has been remarkable to say the least. You're up next, man. What you got for me? What you got for me?
Number one, what's going on in Cincinnati? We gotta see, like we gotta like Joe Burrow and that offense gotta get together. I was not surprised. I was not expecting them, I should say. I was surprised with them getting whooped on this past week.
Mhm.
Like, yo, I know Joe Burrow's been playing hurt. Do you need to go ahead and just tell him, hey, we gotta go with the backup? I don't even know who that backup is.
Yeah.
But we gotta go with the backup at this point. Like you gotta get healthy because this ain't working. You guys got lucky and squeaked out a win over the Rams because the defense balled out that day. But yo, this is not working. Jamar Chase, is not living up to expectations because of it. T. Higgins is now hurt, I believe. So that offense just looks horrible. And we thought like, okay, after the first 2 weeks, you're like, okay, this is what they do. They start slow, and then they finally get together and they go on this winning streak. That winning streak don't look like it's coming this year. So what do you do if you're Cincinnati, looking at this team, looking at this offense? Is it all Joe Burrow being hurt? It can't all be Joe Burrow's calf. Like the whole team can be going down just because of that. Like it has to be more than that. And this offense needs some type of revision, a rejuvenation, something of that sort to get this team going.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love it, man. I love watching every second of it. I'm gonna be honest. This is not Joe Burrow. This is Joey Birkenstock, and that's what I'm gonna call him until he gets right. Because he's walking, he playing out there like he playing in some goddamn sandals, man. One of my friends, one of my closest friends, is a Bengals fan, and he was talking so much shit. He's like, "Yeah, this is gonna be an easy win. Like, there's no way we this is the get back game, and then from here we're gonna just cruise." And honestly, it made sense, right? Like I was like, I could see that. That makes sense. They look terrible, man. They look really terrible. And it's very clear that he's dealing with a lot. Joe Mixon is still that guy, but you'd love to see him step up, right, in this
Yeah.
situation as well, and hasn't been able to blow our socks back just yet, right? Who knows how that's going to continue to develop? But there's a reason why you don't know this guy, Jake Browning. I have no clue, never heard of him. Um, it it's gonna be a rough one because I felt this way last season where it's like, yeah, you guys are great and you're able to make those bounce backs, but losing to the Steelers week 1, it kind of felt like they just like stumbled out the gate. And I,
Yeah.
I felt like maybe it's just a repeat of that this year. It's fine. They'll figure it out. But I definitely feel like there's a lot more to this injury that I feel like they're just not willing to admit, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like they're not trying to change their identity, and it's really hurting them in the long run for sure.
Yeah. I'm totally with you.
Oh man. But that finishes us off on our NFL talk. God damn, there's so much more. It's so crazy. We didn't even talk about the Lions, right? The Lions are
Yeah.
fucking cooking. That's another defense that I didn't expect to turn it around the way that they have, man. You got guys that's been in the league for multiple years that are like, I'm having my career year right now for my
Yeah.
guy Dan Campbell. Like literally, I this is now the darling of the NFL, in my opinion. Like this is the a team that you, if you hating on them, you must be a fan of another team in that division. That's the only thing that makes sense because they're fun
Yeah.
to watch on offense and defense. But this is why we came here, baby, because we had big fights all year long. And there was a
Yeah.
huge one this weekend between Canelo Alvarez and I always get this messed up. Jermell Charlo.
Yes.
Oh man, this was an amazing fight. I think I need to reiterate how amazing this year has been in boxing, that we get to
Yeah.
watch these fights and get to live through them and have the talks that we have about them afterwards. I love the list that we're going to be talking about in boxing too, because um, the biggest fights of the year don't really fall into these conversations. Funny enough, a lot of them
Yeah.
were really one-sided beatdowns, which
Sure.
um, really does kind of make sense if you think about it. But as far as this matchup went, something that I love and I can't wait to get into discussing with you is the real fuck you guys moment for Canelo in this fight. I felt like he really made a point to put himself in the worst position possible in training, right? He was talking about it in the post fight, so passionate. You could tell he put himself through it, and he looked
Yeah,
bigger to me in this fight, which was interesting to see. Um, Obviously the shorter man in there, but able to be the bully, able to control. It was funny. I was listening to one of your breakdowns on the fight, and you were talking about the keys to victory, right, for both guys. And I love the way you talked about Jermell's keys to victory because it was so spot on, man. Whenever he had a chance to put Canelo on the ropes and start advancing, you could see that there are some openings to be found, right? But
yeah,
the initiative that Canelo was able to establish early and often, and one thing that I don't think gets enough credit about this fight specifically, right? Everyone talks about Canelo's defense and how it's slipping, and he doesn't have the chin that he used to have, and all this stuff. It's remarkable to me how small trunk movements can help him get out of the way of so many different shots, and the
yeah,
way he uses that to in tandem with his frames to be able to push off on top against the ropes and then land bombs over the top. Just a
yeah,
real complete performance from Canelo and a big bounce back that he needed. I thought this fight was going to be competitive too, so I'm not shading you, right?
yeah,
But I thought personally, I was disappointed in Jermell's performance. And I think it's just honestly a bad year for Derek James at this point. I think it's
yeah,
hard to say um, the team isn't good because of these outcomes. These dudes are fighting historically great fighters, right? Like all of these
yeah.
guys are historically great. So please keep that in context when you consider the loss, right? Because everyone is kind of shitting on Jermell, and I hate seeing that this week. But I honestly thought he was pretty bad in the corner, man. I felt like there were a lot of times where I'm like, man, they should have just had me out there because I could have hyped them up too, right? Like at some point you gotta be a little bit more technical with the advice. And I just felt like between keeping range and exiting with this hook, man, I didn't expect him to be so out there to just be pushed back. Like I thought he would be able to exit with his hook, angle off, and force Canelo's back against the ropes, which was what you was saying,
Yeah.
and he wasn't able to figure that out, man. Such an interesting dynamic too, because Canelo really had his biggest moment, and I also feel like Jermell didn't look bad physically. I don't think they had a bad game plan. I just felt like they weren't able to adjust once things started going south. And you could tell after he got hit with that big shot in the seventh, he was a lot more apprehensive from that point on. And it's really hard to do that when you sort of had the strategy of coming on late. And now you find yourself in a tough spot. So throw some respect on Canelo's name, man. I feel bad for not putting him in my top five in pound for pound earlier.
Yeah, no, you definitely got to throw some respect on his name. Great performance from him. I was highly disappointed in the performance from Jermell Charlo. And I was watching at a place where I couldn't really hear the commentary or hear when they would go to the corner. But I just imagined where by the fifth or sixth round, after you see what's going on and you see Canelo did a great job of cutting off the ring. Like after the first round, he did a great job of cutting off the ring, making it hard for Jermell to just circle around. And it seemed like he got that from Triple G. I see Canelo kind of picks up things from people that he fights. And I feel like the cutting off the ring very similar to the way Triple G cut off the ring in his prime. And once you see him cutting off the ring in that way, and you see that he's dictating the action so much, at this point, you're like, hey, Charlo, we've gotten you bigger. Because Charlo looked big in the ring. So I'm like, yo, we've gotten you bigger. You've prepared for this weight class. You got to hold your ground, and you got to let those hands go because the seldom times that Charlo did let his hands go and threw 2 3 punch combinations, he had some success because at those moments, Canelo couldn't just slip and do those little moves that you mentioned earlier to get in position to counter. So if he would have threw his hands more, I wouldn't be as disappointed. But I felt like at a certain point, you never want to say a fighter was happy just surviving and getting their check. But at a certain point, it felt like that with Charlo. Like it was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I don't get knocked out. I'm gonna get this money. I'm gonna make more money than I've ever made in my career, and we're gonna go out. And then his reaction after the fight, you know, you lose some. You know, it happens. It's boxing, which is true.
Yeah.
Technically, it's true. Almost everybody takes an L in boxing. Floyd Mayweather is a very rare case, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like he should have been more upset.
Mhm.
Like, yo, I came in here to prove that I'm the best. If he beats Canelo, that puts him on a different level, right? It's like, oh, wow, okay, we didn't know you could go up 2 weight classes. We didn't know you were at the level of Canelo. He would have been undisputed in 2 different weight classes. Like the things that he could have accomplished and the way he could have called shots after beating Canelo. If he beats Canelo, oh, he can talk all the shit. Like he's
Mhm.
calling, he's calling all the shots. If he wants to fight Crawford, he's like, yo, Crawford, you gotta come up here to 168 if you want to fight me, because I'm that dude. I just beat Canelo. Like he would have had all the cards on his table. And for him to not go out on his shield. And I get like no one wants to get knocked out. I get that because somebody I've been knocked out once and I never wanted to do it again. So for me, so I definitely understand that. But for him to be a lion, like he says, and all these things, to go out like he did, Terrence Crawford summed it up correctly. He went out sad. He went out sad. And I was just extremely disappointed, but you got to give all credit in the world to Canelo for the performance and the technical display of cutting off the ring, for using his hook to catch Charlo as he was trying to exit. Like all the things he did well were just a real good display from Canelo, and it was the best I've seen him in a while.
For sure. I think he definitely felt the fire and needed to make a statement, and he definitely did
Yeah.
that, man. This was an awesome fight. I'm curious now what you think is next for both of these guys, right? I think something that you mentioned earlier, as far as the stakes of this fight, I felt like Jermell could have been an instant all-time great, right? And
Yeah.
he is still, right? You can't ever look at an undisputed champion and say they don't deserve to be a Hall of Famer. In my opinion, I feel like that puts you in the conversation no matter who you were fighting. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like this could have been next freaking level, right?
Yeah.
And I think this really speaks, and once again, I'm not trying to shit on anybody here, but I think this really speaks to how different the situation was with the Bivol fight, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the same thing as far as moving up big weight classes, right? And it wasn't the first time Canelo went up big time. Like let's
Yeah.
make that clear too. Um, as far as historically, this was also very big for both of these guys' legacies. And Canelo really putting together a really interesting resume, right? As he continues to
Yes.
go up. Um, not something I really expected early on in his career, almost like a Manny Pacquiao esque reign, right? Where he's getting bigger and getting better against guys that are bigger than him no matter what,
Yeah.
but can't seem to catch up skill wise. And one thing you mentioned as far as learning things from people he fights, couldn't agree with you more, man. That I think is his best trait. Even as he's getting older and some of these things are starting to fade a little bit, I think he is there to be hit. There's a lot of times
Yeah.
where he gets caught looking and he'll be here on a stage either to the left or to the right where his chin is a little exposed. His hands are always up, so he's there to sort of parry as well. But at the same time, I've seen in exchanges, Jermell was able to catch him a couple times with
Yeah.
hooks on the exit. I think he does have a legendary chin though too. Like,
Oh, great
please,
chin.
guys, look back at that Floyd Mayweather fight. Like, people talk shit about Floyd as if he wasn't ever able to punch, which is another narrative that I think got blown up over the years. He hurt Canelo multiple times there, and he was able to work through that. So, and obviously that's a weird example to use as far as mentioning his chin, but the chin is there to
Yeah.
be
The Triple G
hit.
fights.
But
Like,
exactly,
yeah.
the chin is there to be hit, but he's shown that he's able to adapt and his ability to roll too. Like I feel like he learned so much from Floyd, from Triple G, that we're seeing all these things come to bear in his big fights,
Yeah.
which is not an easy thing to do when you're considering you're facing all-time greats while doing it as well. So, man, phenomenal fight, phenomenal fallout. But what's next for Canelo and Jermell?
So for Canelo, what should be next is the winner of David Benavidez, Demetrius Andrade. And man, I know we're going to get into the fights we're excited about. Yo, I'm super hyped for that fight. I'm a big fan of both of those guys. Like, I'm crazy hyped for that fight. But that should be what's next for Canelo, the winner of that fight. Both of those guys have been calling out Canelo for a really long time. So that should be what's next. If it's not the winner of that fight, yeah, maybe David Morrell, but that really doesn't move the needle like that yet. David Morrell is really skilled, really good, but he just needs to build more on his resume to be worthy of a Canelo fight. Um, he could try to move up to 175 again and do it against Bivol, or let Bivol come down, because Bivol has said that he's willing to come down to 168. But I still don't like that matchup. I just don't think it's a good matchup for Canelo. So that'll be the three that stand out. Of course, there's some other options out there, but the big thing is the winner of David Benavidez, Demetrius Andrade, should definitely get Canelo next. For Charlo, going back down to 154 is going to be tough. Like, I imagine that's going to be tough to go back down, but he should go back down to 154. Fight the winner of Tim Tszyu. Who is Tim Tszyu fighting next? Tim Tszyu's having a fight soon. And if Tim Tszyu wins, he should go ahead and fight Tim Tszyu, because Tim Tszyu's been waiting for Charlo. He deserves that shot at Charlo for the undisputed crown. There, or he can go to 160 maybe, if like 154 is a little too tough to go back down to, and 160 has endless possibilities at 160, especially with it kind of being an open division right now as far as not having that many stars. Janabek is the big star at 160 right now. He's kind of the boogeyman that people are trying to avoid, because he's dangerous. He's one of the guys that's not talking about enough in boxing. He's a guy who can really have a reign at middleweight, because he's so dangerous as a southpaw with that power that he has. Him and Charlo will be a very, very interesting fight. And Charlo definitely needs to redeem himself. After the fight, he said he wants to fight Terrence Crawford. You don't get Terrence Crawford after you got dominated by Canelo like that. If it would have been a good fight, like let's say it was a close fight and he lost, 7 rounds to 5. Then after that, you can say, all right, I went up, I lost. Terrence Crawford, I think I could beat you. That would have been made sense. But to come and be like, I lost 10 rounds to 2, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and fight Terrence Crawford next. That doesn't fit. So I think he should go back down to 154 if it's possible, fight Tim Tszyu and those other guys there, or maybe a rematch against Erickson Lubin, who got a decision that was questionable against Jose or Jesus Ramos. But honestly, I feel like people listen to the commentary and not watching the fight on that one. If you go back and watch the fight, Ramos got a lot of credit for following and ring generalship when he wasn't really landing punches in that fight. So I think that's a good matchup where Erickson Lubin can kind of try to redeem himself for getting knocked out by Charlo. So there's some possibility there's at 154 and 160 for Charlo.
Great shouts, man. I couldn't agree with you more. I won't be surprised if we end up with some Canelo Bivol talks. I won't be surprised, but he should be defending those belts at 168 against a 168er, bro. It's about fucking time. Like, I don't care who it is at this point, bro. Give me Morel. I'll take it, to be honest. Like, I will legit take that. But yeah, man, that's such an awesome fight. We won't be touching on it because it's next year. But we definitely got to do a breakdown for that one, because there's so many matchups, man. We've been literally littered with awesome fights this year, and I think the trend's going to keep going. I think everyone's at that point now where it's like we just got to go all in, like, and I fucking love it, man. But as far as other options, man, I think I agree. Tim Tszyu is the play, in my opinion. I think he has a lot of the hype right now, and he's about to fight as well. So obviously, you need all of those things to work out. But who knows, man? At this point, I feel like either of those guys make a lot of sense. As far as moving forward, though, like I would like to see Jermell stay active. Like, I know this was a devastating loss, but you didn't get knocked out. Like, put yourself in a position to put a lot more training camps under your belt, and in theory, you should be favored against all these guys, right? So work as you develop, and let's see you sort of stake your claim, right? Because even though he's undisputed, he's also in that same situation where it's like you got a lot of guys in the division that you're not really fighting. So it's a little weird to be confident in that position of being undisputed. But the 4-belt era, that's what we get, baby. So it's time to start answering those questions, to say the least. But with all that being said, it's time to get into our top 3 performances in boxing of 2023 so far. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, Damian. What is your number 3?
Man, this was tough. There's been a lot of very impressive performances so far this year. And I didn't want to leave any out. Like, honestly, it was tough to narrow it down to 3. But my number 3 top performance, I'm gonna go with one that's probably gotten lost in the sauce. Shakur Stevenson, when earlier this year when he fought, and I'm gonna mess up his name, Yoshino it was Yoshino. I'm messing up the last name here, but my fault.
No, you
But
good.
uh, against Yoshino, man, he's going up in weight for the first time to 135, and his power has been questioned, right? By everyone, including his opponent. They're like, hey, you don't have power. You're a great boxer. Yeah, everybody gives him credit for that. They're like, you don't have power. So I'm gonna walk through your punches, and that's how I'm gonna win a fight. And he goes up to 135 against a guy who's undefeated at the time and dominates him. Not only dominates him in the way that you expect from Shakur, but dominates him in a way where you're like, oh, okay, the power is there. He sat down on his punches. So he
Mm.
gives you that same style where it's very hard to hit him because of his stance. And even though he's right there, it seems like he's right there. Like, why can't I hit him? He's right there. So he's right there, and it seems like you can hit him, but you can't. And then he's countering you with these power shots. And he was able to get a knockout his first fight at 135, and he's fighting again very soon. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's my number three right there. I got to go with Shakur Stevenson's performance earlier this year.
I love that shout out, man. Another Puerto Rican that just got me so hyped for the future, right? Got me so hyped for the future. You gotta love it. Um, my favorite thing about Shakur is his ability to keep guys at that edge, man, where his jab is snapping them like right at
Yeah,
the edge of the elbow. Like he understands his range better than most fighters ever will be able to. And
yeah.
and that's a very significant thing to have at such a young age. Like that guy is for real, man, and I won't be surprised if we see him end up being undisputed. And that's someone that doesn't even have a title right now. So tune in, baby. But I left him off of my list, so I'm glad you put him on there. Um, I've got an honorable mention. I'll hold that on till the end. My number three on this list. This was very hard for me to suss out too, because if anything, as far as top three performances, this might have been the most underwhelming and the most sort of the one that flew under the radar the most. Chantel Cameron winning a unanimous
Ooh,
decision against Katie Taylor on
great
the
call.
road. Insane. And the fact I've never been so disrespected in my life as a fan. How do you win a fight that unanimously, that comfortably, and then you have to fight her again in her hometown? That is
Yeah.
so disrespectful. Can't even imagine that. What kind of contract? Get your agent fired because
But yeah, it's
he didn't
the
have no
same.
faith in you.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Devin Haney. Devin Haney dominates Ken Bostis, has to go back to Australia to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm
Crazy.
thinking they're putting in the contracts now where they're like, okay, we're gonna make sure we get both of these in our hometown, which it's great for Ireland though, but that
Yeah.
performance was a major by Chantel Cameron for sure.
For sure. And the most shocking part about it to me was the ability to not let Katie get started. Like she
Mm.
thrives in those exchanges. She thrives in being able to become that face forward fighter after establishing her range. And it was a range battle for a bit, but after Chantel was able to establish her jab, keep pumping it, amazing performance. I'm a little nervous about the rematch. Like I feel like Katie, just knowing her pedigree, knowing how she approaches things, I think she's gonna come back stronger. But I think I'm gonna pick Chantel Cameron in the rematch as well, man. I think size, especially in women's divisions, gets discounted, man. Like
Yeah,
you
it
guys must
matters.
not understand, man. Size is a big difference no matter what, no matter who you are, but especially in the women's divisions, man. I think she looked really big out there, and I think that's just a lot to overcome, man. But I won't be surprised if Katie Taylor's able to make something happen. But a very amazing under the radar star, in my opinion, we have in Chantel Cameron.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. That's a great pick right there for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got the sleepers over here, baby. So I'm gonna let you start us off. What's our number two on the board?
All right, my number two and number one are could be 1A and 1B. I think you probably know where I'm going with these two. So number two, I'm gonna go with Navi Inoue against Stephen Fulton. Just amazing performance, amazing. Like he did everything correct. And Stephen Fulton going into the fight, I thought he could have some success because of his athletic ability, his ability to, circle around the ring, his lateral movement, and his ability to catch people coming in. And Naya Inoue was like, nah, none of that's working. None of that's going to work in this fight. He did everything correctly. I love how he went upstairs and downstairs, how he feinted and got Fulton off balance, how his power carried up to another weight class. You mentioned, how Canelo can be Manny Pacquiao-esque. We're seeing that definitely with Naoya Inoue as well, with his power carrying up. He's truly the monster. He is truly the monster, and I can't wait to see what he does next. It's going to be interesting to see how far he goes up. I know some people can believe maybe one day we'll see a super fight between him and Gervonta Davis, which if that happens, like I might just have a seizure and faint. Like it's like that would be like I would be like so over the moon to see that fight. But he does everything well. His power in both hands, he can box you, like he does everything, man. His performance against Stephen Fulton was just a masterclass.
Dude, and I love the way he's changing his style too to become a
Yeah,
real fuck you counterpuncher. Like he
yeah.
leaves his chin out there just to lie to you. Like the chin is not there, bro. Stop taking the bait because everyone keeps seeing it up and they're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna get to him, and then just keeps getting torched on the counter, man, with that right hand. Another guy that you love to see people taking advantage of straight punches. In my opinion, the most underrated aspect of boxing, because people will watch over and over again people landing 1-2s and they will not react, but then someone
yeah,
lands a hook and all of a sudden now we're getting significant strikes. There's nothing more debilitating on the offense or on the defense than getting stuck at the end of someone's range, and it fucks up your equilibrium so bad, getting ramrodded. Like it's jarring. And when
yeah,
you're able to do that from distance and not put yourself in a position to be hurt from there, like you are in a spot where you can continue to pour on your offense. And man,
yeah,
this dude is super technical. I think he is a dangerous fighter no matter who you are, right? Like I think as he continues to grow up through these weight classes, he always looks much bigger every time. And
yeah.
and I'm like, damn, like did he get taller too? Like I'm thinking back to the Nonito Donaire fight. I'm like, I feel like he might have like grew an inch or two too. Like I'm not making that up, bro. Like I feel like he might have grew a little bit because he looked huge against Fulton, and that was something that
Yeah,
really stuck out to me in those early rounds. Please, people, put some respect on Stephen Fulton's name. This is not the last we've seen of him.
yeah.
I
No,
think,
he's a very, very good fighter.
yeah, as soon as Inoue leaves that weight class, I think he's going to clean it back up the way he had it. Like he's a great fighter. Didn't have a great night. Please don't let us lose sight of that. That's the biggest thing as far as the Jermell Charlo fight. This one, the next one, because I already know both of ours is the same. The next
Yeah,
fight we're going to talk about, these are all fights where yes, they didn't look good. They didn't look like all-time fighters in that weight class like they were billed to be, but that's
yeah,
because of who they were facing, and you got to keep that
yes,
perspective.
for sure, definitely. So if that's we agree on number two, then we agree on number one, Terrence Crawford. That was an amazing performance. And you mentioned being stuck at the end of somebody's jab where you can't do anything about it. And this was the definition of that. His jab, it was jarring to see how he just couldn't miss. Like he was throwing rocks in the ocean. He couldn't miss his punches. And the jab was what started off all of the trouble. Like he knocked him down with a jab. And when you get knocked down with a jab, it catches the fighter off guard. We saw it on the undercard of the Canelo fight when Mario Barrios knocked down Ugas with a jab. And
Another
it was
shocking
like,
fight.
yeah, Ugas was like, oh, like that was crazy. And I should have told more people, but I picked Barrios in that fight. I won a little pretty penny on that one. But
Nice.
he with Terrence Crawford, he did everything well. The range, being able to counter anything that Errol Spence did, anticipating Errol Spence's movement. Errol Spence had a habit of ducking down towards his right hand, which is his jab hand as he's fighting southpaw. And every time he ducked down, he just stick it with him. Boom. Yo, you gonna duck down again? Boom. I'm just gonna hit you every time you do this. So he was able to really pick up on his tendencies and took it full advantage of that. And I really didn't expect the gap in what seemed to be their athleticism. I thought that
Mhm.
athletically they would both be around the same thing, but it seemed like Terrence Crawford's speed, his quickness was way more than Errol Spence's. And the one thing we thought he had going into that fight was a strength advantage. And there was a moment in that fight where Errol Spence, I believe it was the second round, tried to get up close to him and try to push Terrence Crawford. And you saw Terrence Crawford not really move. And then as soon as they got a little space, he boom, boom, hit him twice. And it was like, oh. And I was like, I'm about to lose my money. at, that moment. So it was crazy, man. Great performance from Terrence Crawford. He really showed that he's an all-time great in that one.
Yeah, man. All-time greats really rise their level when they're facing another all-time great, and
Yeah.
his ability to come out on fire, man. Like I saw the sweat on him when he was coming out, and I'm like, man, this dude's ready. And
Yeah.
his ability, like earlier on in his career, I think that was something that I didn't like as far as his game was. I feel like he let a lot of guys hang around a little bit,
Yeah.
and sort of establish themselves. And then once he started getting hit with a couple things, he's like, thank you for reminding me that I could push the gas and get you out of here whenever I fucking feel like it.
Yeah.
And his avoiding that in this matchup specifically was so important. Like I thought that's
Yeah.
why this was going to be a competitive fight, because he's notorious for sort of feeling things out early, getting that data, and then working his way into the fight. There was none of that in this one. Man was ready on go on as
Yeah.
soon as that first bell rang. And it's awesome to see people really rise to the occasion like that, man. In a fight that was so hyped for multiple years, we finally
Yeah.
got it, and nobody expected it to be one-sided like that at all. So,
No.
phenomenal
And
performance, man, and it really changed the way we look at him as a fighter. Like
yeah.
we the respect should have been there already, because what he's been able to do, being undisputed like that in two weight classes, like fucking phenomenal Hall of Fame career, no matter what. But to be able to make that happen, it's like I don't know, man. I think we're watching another fighter that could potentially put himself up there as the best fighter we have ever seen. As far as
Yeah.
actual skills, like that was insane to watch. I remember just feeling like, and I hope this doesn't sound fucked up, but with how one-sided it was, it kind of made you think, was this Errol Spence regression? Like, how did he become so much better in what should have
Yeah.
been his toughest test? Like that, it was crazy.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that thought process because it seemed like, man, this can't be the best Errol Spence. This can't be, right? But maybe Terrence Crawford is just that much better. I've talked about it before, where sometimes you'll have athletes who are just special, and they'll make great athletes look average. And you saw it with like Serena Williams. She made Venus and Maria Sharapova look like they weren't great because she was so special. Floyd Mayweather did the same thing to Oscar De La Hoya and to Diego Corrales, guys who were great. He made them look average. And I feel like Terrence Crawford might be on that same level.
Great shout, 100%. And what you just said reminded me of my honorable mention. So I threw a little honorable mention in here. Don't get me in trouble, but Boots Ennis versus Roman Villa, man.
Oh yeah,
I like to see his adjustment in this fight to sort of allow the fight to come to him, but then also remind everyone that he's a special talent whenever he decided to, right? Like,
yeah,
shout out to Roman Villa. Most people would have been out of there. Like,
yeah.
most people in the world would have been
He
out of
took
there
some major shots.
for sure. And it's really showed out. And I think that's an important fight to have, man. There's so many guys in boxing that no matter what you hit them with, you're going to need a bigger brick of concrete, because they're just going to keep coming. And
Yeah,
to be able to see a young fighter that's still developing, that still hasn't had big fights up to this point,
yeah,
to see them not panic through that and dominate through that, right? And start showing out later on in the fight. We already knew that that's who he was as far as being a showman. But that's a very hard situation to be in as a prospect. I've seen a lot of prospects fold, not because the guy they're fighting is necessarily exceptional, but because what they thought they were going to do isn't what was
yeah.
happening, right? and
Mhm.
and you could tell just his mental discipline, man. He is a special guy. I think he, the same way Shakur Stevenson was last year, is a guy that nobody's giving respect, but he might be. I know it's tough to think about with Terrence Crawford in that division, but when it's all said and done, he might be the best guy at 147, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, no, he might be. Hopefully we do get Boots versus Terrence Crawford if Terrence Crawford doesn't really have an opponent because the whole Jermell Charlo thing is now out the window. And it's hard for me to see Terrence Crawford going up to 168. I know he's like teased about maybe going up there to fight Canelo, but that would be crazy. And the thing is, he's so great that you can't really put it, out of realm of possibilities. But it'll be crazy to see that. I was like, oh wow, he's really going to do this. Like, I would be shocked to see him accept that fight and go up to 168. And plus, like you said, we need to see Canelo fight people his own size for the next one. So I'll be shocked by that. But that's a great shout, an honorable mention. To give you one more honorable mention, Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall. Clarissa Shields, man, that was a dominant performance. Got hyped up going into it. Now I do believe Savannah Marshall was overhyped. I mentioned before, like I've compared it to the Great White Hype movie from the '90s with Damon Wayans and Samuel L. Jackson, where Damon Wayans plays a boxer who is dominant but has to beat the guy who he lost to in amateurs, who's not good at all, but they hype it up because it's the Great White Hype. I feel like Savannah Marshall kind of felt that build, but to go in there with the hype and to just dominate in that way, major win for Clarissa Shields and what she was able to do there.
Great shout as well. Another fighter that gets undershadowed because of how great she is, and
Yeah,
the perceived lack of competition that she has.
yeah,
Obviously, Cecilia Breckus is having a fight coming up soon. It's always like, who can we line up whenever we're talking about her? But
yeah.
big fan of Clarissa Shields and what she's been able to accomplish in boxing and in MMA. So let's keep an eye out for that moving forward. But my favorite discussion here, top three fights of the year so far, man. I was nervous when trying to hash this out, trying to figure out where I'm gonna go with this, because there's a lot of different options and a lot of ways you could play it, right? Like
Yeah,
a lot of these fights didn't live up to the hype, but then a lot of them did in a lot of different ways. So I'm really excited to get into this list. I'll start with my number three. This is one that's probably not gonna get the same level of respect, in my opinion, because of how it ended. But I had so much fun watching this fight, man. My guy, David Benavidez against Caleb Plant. What a
yeah,
performance, man. I thought Caleb Plant looked the best he's ever looked in his career. He showed out in that fight in a way that I didn't expect him to. And David
yeah,
Benavidez looked super poised the entire time, kept on the offense. I remember having a bunch of conversations with you after his fight against Lemieux about sort of some of the issues I saw with his reckless engagement, right? Shout
yeah,
out to David Benavidez. That's why we love watching him fight, right? But I thought in that fight specifically, he really dialed things in, and it made for a super competitive, fun fight, man. Back and forth. Not really the first thing that people think of, right? When it comes to fight of the year, or like, this fight was awesome. But
yeah.
for me, the fact that it became a little tactical matchup until we got into those late rounds, it was more exciting than we expected. That one was a fun fight. And please, I encourage you guys to watch it back because it's more exciting than you remember, I promise.
Yeah, no, that's a really good call. That was a really good fight. I definitely like watching that fight. And you saw David Benavidez show more of his technical skill in that one, and that's what Caleb Plant brought out of him. So that's a really good pick right there. For my number three, honestly, you could pick any Manuel Navarrete fight for your most exciting fight. So for number three, I'm gonna go with him against Oscar Valdez. Like that was an absolute just war, like an absolute war between those two guys. And it was something that for sure you saw and was like, what's happening right now? Like this fight, because Navarrete was able, I thought should have been able to kind of get Valdez out of there. And Valdez, very tough, showed ability to really just had a ability to adjust in this fight that I didn't expect from him. Because previously you saw him against Shakur Stevenson, someone else who had range, and he just got dominated. But that just shows you how great, Shakur Stevenson is. Against Navarrete, all you saw was just these two guys going at it. And both guys took so much punishment in that fight. It just makes you really respect what boxers do, man. So Manuel Navarrete, Oscar Valdez, my number three. That was a crazy fight to watch.
You stole it, man. You stole it from me. I was so excited. I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna be this one. If anything, it might be the other
Yeah,
one. Yeah, man. I also want to give a shout out to Navarrete too, because I was sleeping on him in that one. I know you said you thought he could have got the finish with the way the fight was playing out, but coming in, I
yeah,
thought it was a much closer fight than people were giving it credit for, man. And he just early and often. I love his style too, right? Such a unique
yeah,
boxer. Like I love. There's something that I love watching in MMA and in boxing when a guy just has his own style. Like it's
mm-hmm.
so hard across. I encourage you guys train at different gyms, see what it's like, because a lot of these gyms are trying to build the same fighter. So the fact
Yeah,
that there's people like him that exist where a coach can recognize, like, hey, I might not teach somebody how to fight this way, but this is how you fight. Let's make you better at this versus let me try to pigeonhole you into this style. it really, in my opinion, that's how he's gotten the most out of his career, man. The dude beats to his own drum and makes for some violent action fights for sure. So that was my
Yes.
number two. You stole it, man. You stole it.
So since we had that one in common, I'll go to my number two. Very technical battle, right? Very technical. People might not have appreciated because it wasn't some all-out war, but Haney versus Lomachenko. This was a very good fight. I know people, didn't agree with the outcome for the most part, but I can see how there were a lot of rounds that were close that could go either way, and how this fight got decided in Haney's way. But when you saw Haney find the hole in Lomachenko's defense, which is very hard to do, right? Because Lomachenko, his offense is his defense pretty much, right? Because he's coming at you from so many different angles and throwing punches from different places that you get overwhelmed by it, and then he could be defensively sound on top of it. But Haney was like, okay, I'm gonna wait and see what he does. Right hand to the body, boom, right hand to the body. I'm gonna take that, and he found where the hole was and was able to win rounds in that way. And then Lomachenko adjusted, and you saw Haney kind of struggling a little bit to find out what was going on, especially rounds 8 through 11, where it seemed like Lomachenko was taking control. But then Haney finished off strong, and it was all a mind battle between these guys about what they can do in these fights. And it was something that you just have to enjoy as a boxing fan, a very technical battle like that between two A-plus fighters.
Man, highway robbery. This dude is a thief. That's my number one, man. Like I thought it was gonna be the most hipster pick, right? Like I thought when I
Yeah.
said it, I was like, this ain't even gonna be on his list because of the exact things you said. But I loved watching this fight, man. I'm a big Lomachenko fan. And this wasn't the typical why isn't Lomachenko starting fast moment. No, this was
Yeah.
Devin Haney doing the damn thing those first 4 rounds and really
Mhm.
looking like honestly looking like he was the guy at this division, right? And
Mhm.
then the narrative of the fight starts to shift, man, and Lomachenko starts to all the spots where he wasn't able to connect earlier in the fight, he starts now landing, and now he's pushing Haney back, and the optics
Mhm.
of that, right?
Yeah.
Such an exciting like momentum shift, and then going into those final rounds, now I'm feeling like damn, it's gut check time for Haney, and to see that like I don't think people understand how important it is in those moments. That's where greats are made. That's where you define yourself as a fighter. When it's gut check time, when you're not sure how this is going to go, that's when you separate yourself from the rest. And I thought that was a competitive fight. I personally scored it for Lomachenko, but I completely get why the momentum shifted with that last round. That was a clear 12th round for Haney, no matter how you cut it. And I just feel like it's so weird, right? Because you flip a couple coins and you close your eyes on Lomachenko's career, and he could have been one of the best boxers ever in two decisions that you could argue were a little questionable, right? A little questionable.
Yeah.
I could see the workings of both, and it's not like a robbery at all. But
Yeah.
please put some respect on Lomachenko's name as far as what he's been able to deliver in his career for somebody who's had such an extensive amateur background to come into the sport and not give a fuck. Like, think about it. I think he is someone that also ushered in this era of let's go out there and fucking fight and let's make the
Yeah.
most out of our career while we have it. And it's crazy to see him being the elder statesman now to a lot of
Yes.
guys that are really on their way up and still being able to compete in that way. Clearly, I'm gushing. This was a amazing fight, and this was my most excited one for this year. So I'm excited to hear your number one.
My number one was Sergey Devenchenko versus Jaime Munguia. Like absolute just war. Like these two
Sir.
dudes just went at it. I'm talking about like from opening bell. I'm talking about on site. Like yo, it was on site with these two. Craziness, and I didn't expect Derevchenko at his advanced age to be able to keep up with Jaime Munguia in this way. And Jaime Munguia, is like 26, so you're like, okay, Jaime Munguia, he's known for these action bouts. He's all offense, all push. He's just going to go forward and do what he does. But Derevchenko was able to, because of his boxing acumen and his willingness to just exchange, was honestly, I thought won the fight. Now, it was close. It was no robbery, but I thought that Derevchenko deserved a decision. And man, if you haven't seen that fight, Go back and watch it. If you have the zone, you can go and check it on the zone. Absolute. And the fact that this wasn't pay-per-view, the fact that we got this action on the zone was absolutely nuts, man. That fight, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, thinking somebody's gonna get knocked out. McGee got hurt at one point during the fight, which we haven't really seen because he's been so durable. Like Derenchenko is another guy who you look at his career, a couple of rounds here or there, a couple of coin flips, and we're looking at his career completely different.
Yep. For sure, man. He's also been on the wrong side of some of those calls. And I love that you threw
Yes.
this in there. This was my honorable mention. And the only
Okay.
reason I don't rate it as much is because I really consider, and I know this is me being a fucking purist here, but I really consider the level of boxing whenever I watch these fights. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, this fight is probably gonna get fight of the year. Like, let's be
Yeah.
fucking honest here. It's probably gonna
Yeah.
be the one that gets it. But as far as like whenever I was watching that fight, I'm like, bro, you don't have to do this, bro. Like that's how I felt the whole time. Like none of y'all have to do this. Y'all know this, right? But obviously the
Yeah.
fans win in those situations. But
Yeah.
it always just makes me question, man. Like, especially for a prospect like Mungia fighting someone that's a little longer in the tooth, man. It's like I understand you. Sometimes you got to put the nuts on the table and swing them things. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to see prospects developing their A game. And that to me felt like I'm developing my shut my eyes off and turn the primal mode on, which at this stage of development, in my opinion, isn't where you want to be headed when you want to be a champion. So it was
Yeah.
such a weird fight with that consideration. But yeah, as far as the you know someone that's not really a boxing fan, show them that fight. And we
Yes.
all in, baby.
Yes, that like I said, that fight right there was absolutely nuts. I do agree with you. Jaime McGee seems like for some reason he just has the anti-Charlo. Where Charlo, I wanted Charlo to do this. He's a guy who does this and doesn't need to. Like you're like, yo, stay behind your jab. He's pretty athletic. Like learn to box a little bit more. But again, it does make him an exciting fighter who I'm ready for him to make these big action fights happen. Like Derenchenko's a good little step up, but dog, we need you to take world champions. Like being a world champion a couple years ago at 154 is not cutting anymore. Like we need you to go ahead and take that next step and get the big time fights. Probably gonna get him versus Edgar Berlanga sometime next year. That would be a good action bout for sure because both of those guys are gonna come and be all offense. But again, that's not even the fight I want. I want him to take on a world champion. Him and Berlanga will be entertaining. It will be great for business. You know how those fights work, Mexican versus Puerto Rican in New York. They'll kill it there as far as business wise, but I need to see Munguia step up and take on the best of the best.
I agree 100%. That's what makes me sad about that fight specifically because I just kind of feel like I know that the best of the best isn't the right move for him right now. And the way he's developing, it feels like he's never going to get there. So you might as well take advantage while you have it. I love that
Yeah.
Berlanga fight too, because both guys are so flawed in the right way that you know
Yeah.
that the same thing is going to happen, right? Well, at
Yeah.
some point, the bungalows will be thrown out for sure. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But we're not done here, baby. The lists are done. But I'm so excited to look ahead for the rest of 2023. And then I have a couple questions as far as where this one ranks on the all-time list because I feel like it's higher than people give it credit for. So I'm gonna be rattling off these fights. Honestly, I would love to get a pick out of you, but I think the most important thing we need to figure out is whether or not we should give a fuck, right? Like, because that's important as a fan. Do we care enough to
Yes.
even tune in? Most of these, I don't know. But there's two fights this Saturday, so I think it's only appropriate that we start there. Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington, trying to be the undisputed king of Britain. As a man who's quarter English, I've got my eyes on this one, brother. But I don't think it's going to be too exciting of a fight. To give my breakdown short and sweet, I think both of these guys can have the rug pulled under their career at any point at this stage. In my opinion, I think they're both at that spot in their career where, yeah, you have a title, but you ain't the guy in the division. And if
Yeah.
anything, people are pointing at you because they want to get you. So tough spot in my opinion. And I love that their last losses as well are common opponents, right? which you
Yeah.
love to see. So such a weird stylistic matchup. I'm gonna go with the favorite at home. But I won't be surprised if we get an upset here. But give me Lee Wood. How you feeling, Damian?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Lee Wood's someone else who you can throw in for performance of the year in the rematch he had against Mauricio Lara. I won a lot of money on that one because for some reason he was a big time underdog because I guess the people who were betting only saw the highlight when he got knocked out by Lara,
Yep.
but which was a crazy left hook, nasty. But if you watch that entire fight, Wood dominated up until that moment. He just happened to slip up and get caught by that hook. But so in the rematch, I was like, oh, he's just going to stay away from the hook and he's going to dominate. And that's what happened. And that was a great technical performance by him. And I think that he'll win this fight in a similar fashion. I see Lee Wood pulling away. I am excited to watch this one just to see if Warrington can do anything about it. But it is a good bout to watch as a boxing fan for sure.
Yeah, there definitely are mirror matches, and it really surprised me when I noticed that Warrington is the younger of the two. I don't know why. I felt like
Yeah.
Lee Wood was the one who was coming on at this stage of his career, but he seems to be the elder statesman by 2 years. So, like I said, the bottom could fall out for these guys at any second, but that's gonna make for a fun action fight for sure. The second fight, this one kind of freaked me out when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, is this correct? Zerto Ramirez going up against Joe Smith Jr. at cruiserweight. Both guys moving
Yes.
up from light heavyweight, which is such an interesting spot because cruiserweight is a barren wasteland, and both of these guys are actually pretty exciting. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Badu Jack. Somehow he's still a fucking champ in this age of cruiserweight, which is crazy. But I can't wait to just lay out right here and hear how you feel because I think this is low key a banger to close out the end of the year that nobody's really excited about, but I think could be a really dope fight.
No, it's a really good fight. Really good fight. You got two guys who can punch, two guys who are usually willing to go there and throw them things. So you could get an all-out action bout in this one. With Ramirez, it was a little disappointing because he couldn't make weight to fight against. Was it our guy Gabe? That always, Gabe always takes on all the fights. So he couldn't make the weight to fight against Gabe, which honestly that was a fight that he didn't need to take at that point. Ramirez needs to be fighting the best. I know that he got outclassed by Dimitri Bivol, but he's at the point in his career where, okay, you got outclassed, take on the next great guy. Like we just need to see. Maybe it's just a style thing at that point. We need to
Shit,
see
Canelo
you.
did too. Canelo got
Yeah,
outclassed by him too. You can't be mad.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So he got outclassed by Bivol. Take on the next great guy, Joe Smith Jr. As far as light heavyweight was that guy there. As far as the next guy, because you weren't going to go from him to take on Arthur Beterbiev. That wasn't going to happen after he got outclassed by Bivol. So Joe Smith Jr. makes sense to take him on. Now at cruiserweight, it's a little weird that they're both moving up. And like you said, cruiserweight has become when you don't have a great cruiserweight can really just be a wasteland. And they don't have a great cruiserweight right now. You have no Evander Holyfield, you have no Alexander Usyk, you don't have any of those guys to really make that division pop. So right now you have the likes of a Badu Jack as a champion at cruiserweight right now. No disrespect to him, guy has the heart of a lion. But the fact that Badu Jack's a champion at cruiserweight really shows you the state of the division right now. But this fight in a vacuum, very good fight. And one of those guys could go on to maybe be the cruiserweight guy that we need to bring attention to the division.
Yes, sir. Now I need the pick. I need the pick. Who you got?
Ooh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one to pick. I'm gonna go Joe Smith Jr. I'm gonna go Joe Smith Jr. in this
Underdog.
one. I think that his relentless pressure and his power. I think his power is underrated because we saw him get demolished by Beterbiev. People are kind of sleeping on what Joe Smith Jr. can do. So I think that he'll win this one, but it will be a good fight while it lasts.
Yeah, I was there that night. He landed a couple shots before that happened. It wasn't
Yeah,
like it was a one-sided drubbing, even though it was 2 rounds. People see the
yeah,
result and think it's just a one-way traffic, man. You stole my thunder because I'm picking Joe Smith Jr. too, man. I think Zerto at his age has some of that the same thing we talked about with Jaime Munguia, in my opinion, where he doesn't really use all of his skills, but when he does, like he looks like a much better fighter than Jaime. Don't get me wrong, as
yeah,
far as what he can bring to the table. But it's such a weird place to be in whenever you have these weight issues because thankfully in boxing, the weight classes are closer, right? So you can figure
yeah.
that out. But I don't know if cruiserweight's the long term ideal weight class for him. So the interesting spot to be. I don't mind the move for Joe Smith a little bit more because it felt like, in my opinion, he as we know, the older you get, the harder it is to make that cut. And I felt like
Yeah.
we never saw him get touched up like that. Even though we know at this point Better BF has a different level of power,
Yeah.
I thought he'd be able to hang in a little bit longer. So I think it was time for both of these guys. But I think if anyone is the if this makes any sense, the least natural cruiserweight, it'll
Yeah.
probably be Zerto. So that's why I was
Yeah.
going with Joe Smith there. But he's the underdog, so who knows? We might be wrong in
Yeah.
this one.
Maybe, but it does make more sense for Joe Smith Jr. to move up because it seems like he kind of capped out at 175. Like he wasn't going to be Paval, wasn't going to be BF. So at this point, what are you doing? Right. So I think it made sense for him to move up to cruiserweight and maybe he can be the guy there.
Man, of all the questions I wrote out, I kept this one to myself. I kept this one close to my vest because I think this was the most excited I was to ask you about any of these fights that we have left for the rest of 2023. Tommy Fury versus KSI. I need to know, Damian Adams, the Baron of boxing. Tell me, how you feeling about this blockbuster of a pay-per-view we've got coming up in 2 weeks?
Oh my goodness. I'm man, you definitely know how I feel about this. Like I hate it so much. Hate it so much. And the crazy thing is Tommy Fury like actually has like actual boxers on his resume. But I guess he saw that YouTube money he got from the Jake Paul fight and was like, yo, we're gonna keep going in this direction. I'm gonna beat these YouTubers up. KSI has been just beating up other YouTubers from the highlights I've seen. You see him on social media every once in a while of the fights. I'd never tune in to a KSI fight. I've never done it, and I will continue to not do it. I'm not gonna watch this fight. I am not tuning in. I can give zero fucks about this fight.
I fucking love it. He's not even gonna give me a pick. I love it, bro. And that was why I added it to the list because all the real boxing purists understand that this is nothing but smoke and mirrors. This is
Yeah,
nothing but hype. But let's be honest, throughout the entire history of boxing, there has been a place for this shit.
yeah,
Throughout the history of boxing, this is the carnival stuff. And don't get me wrong, as an MMA fan, I get into grease. I'm not gonna lie, I get into grease, man. I'm a degenerate. I'm not looking forward to this fight. I think it's gonna be absolute garbage, like
yeah.
entertainment value as far as boxing. But this might be one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year, and that makes me so sad, bro. It makes me so sad. But we'll move on from that. You get no picks from us on that one. Next up, and unfortunately, we have to cut out some of these fights here because there's just so much, and and
Yeah.
some of these are a little undercut. But on October 27th, we've got Amanda Serrano going up against Danila Ramos. The most notable part about this fight, for the first time in women's boxing history, just making history again. You love to see these Puerto Ricans doing the damn thing. For the first time in women's boxing history, we've getting 3-minute rounds, which I think suits
Mm.
Amanda Serrano's style beautifully. Obviously, I'm picking her here. Can't wait to see what J she comes out in. You got anything for this for me on this one?
I like Serrano in this one, but we've talked about it before as far as the 3 minute rounds in women's boxing and how we've been disappointed by 2 minute rounds, some of the biggest fights. So hopefully this starts a trend where we see 3 minute rounds going forward. Hopefully Amanda Serrano is very impressive in this one, so we can get Amanda Serrano versus Alicia Bumgarner sometime next year. Looking forward to that one. We both feel the same about Alicia Bumgarner, where we like, man, she could have been a model. She could have been all these other things, but she decided to box. And on top of, honestly, her beauty is just a layer of cake on top of her boxing skills. And hopefully with Bumgarner, we get to see her and Serrano. That would be like a massive, massive deal for that fight to happen. So hopefully Serrano takes care of business here. And this is not like a just over step over fight where you just take it easy. Like this is a legit opponent that Serrano has. So I'm not saying it as if like Serrano should do it easily, not at all. But Serrano should win the fight, and then we can get Lisa Baumgartner versus Serrano next year.
And I love that you mentioned it's not going to come easy because both of her last fights did not come easy. Like I
Yeah,
honestly, I think at this stage of Amanda Serrano's career, she is declining a little bit. I think I'm really interested to see how the 3 rounds changes the way her power affects her opponents because I feel like all the time she's like at that 15-second mark, she has them hurt. So I
Yeah,
think that there's real finish potential here. But at the same time, I do feel like she is there and exchanges a lot more than she was earlier on, which is a
yeah,
little scary to see from an aging fighter. But if there's anything that this YouTube era or whatever the fuck you want to call it in boxing has actually brought quality, I hate to give him credit, but Jake Paul is doing very well with this stage of her career,
mm,
actually making her a relevant fighter. Let's be honest, she was not a relevant fighter the majority of when she was in her prime. So the
yeah,
fact that an all-time great in boxing, if you look at the truth, an all-time great in boxing is able to get a nice exit and make her money on the way out, something you never see in combat sports. So thankful for that. But
for
moving
sure.
on, this is honestly selfishly the most excited I am to ask you. And you already know why, right? Because I am the resident MMA guy. I've gotten bamboozled once, right? So I'm
Yeah,
going to be very honest with you here because of one very specific man, and that is obviously Conor McGregor. The whole situation with the Floyd fight. Listen, okay? Hear me out here. All right? I just came into my fandom as an MMA fighter. I was all on the fucking Connor hype train. But how can you blame me, right? The era, the moment.
yeah,
That was when he, in my opinion, poured the cup out of his potential of who he was as an athlete. After that fight, his
mm,
career went down the tubes because he became bigger than I'm sure he ever imagined. And once he
yeah,
hit that level, boxing was, I mean, MMA was always secondary from that point on. And
yeah,
he doesn't even look like the same human being anymore. So I'm
yeah,
starting this by saying, in the past, I was drawn into this hype of an MMA fighter boxing a boxer, and I was completely proven wrong because it was very clear that Mayweather carried him early on. But with all
yeah,
that being said, I think it's very fair for everyone to feel the same exact way about Tyson Fury and Ngannou. I'm excited to see this fight because of what it means, right?
yeah,
Heavyweight is the darling division in boxing, no matter who you are. And the fact that we're getting a champ versus champ fight on this scale, amazing. I'm so happy for Francis Ngannou. If we're looking at both of those crossover fights in a vacuum, I think you could argue, as far as the actual logistics of a puncher's chance, Ngannou has a better chance in this fight. Do
yeah.
I think he has a chance in this fight? No, not at all. I think this is going to be a ass whipping, and I think it's because of who he chose to fight. I think if he fought somebody like Wilder, shit, it would have been fucking insane, but he would have had a little bit more of a chance. I think this is the
Yeah,
absolute worst heavyweight to fight in your first boxing match because he
yeah,
is the only heavyweight that I feel confident in saying is an all-time great boxer, regardless of him being a heavyweight, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like all-time great heavyweights, their is always up to par, but compared to other fighters, I feel like it's not the same level. I think
yeah.
Tyson Fury is an all-time great boxer, and that's what makes this a one-sided fight. But who knows, man? I fucking love Francis. I love his story and what he's been through. I'm rooting for him in a selfish way, but you know Tyson Fury is one of my guys, so I'm pretty positive that I'm gonna throw some shekels on Tyson Fury to get a knockout here because it seems like that kind of fight.
Yeah, I am excited for Francis to make the money he's going to make in this fight. I'm always excited for MMA fighters to get that chance to make life-changing money. So as much as I don't like Jake Paul, I'm excited and appreciate him for getting the money he got for Woodley and for the other UFC fighters that he's fought. So for this fight, I agree with you. Tyson Fury, excuse me, should be able to win this fight very easily. Francis is a guy I knew. I know it's been hyped up that he's training with Mike Tyson. It doesn't matter who's training him. Like it doesn't. It's too much of a mismatch. It's too much of a gap in boxing knowledge. And like you said, Tyson Fury, even if he was born smaller and was a light heavyweight, would still be a great boxer because of his skill and the ability he has to move around that ring. The fact that he's 6'9", 270, and could still do that is what makes him amazing. So I think Tyson Fury should win by knockout. But this is one of the crossover fights I will be excited to watch. I am going to tune into this one just to see what happens for sure.
That's awesome, bro. I'm so glad to hear that. And let me just pitch you on this because this is an underrated aspect of this fight. I know you said it doesn't matter who's training him, and to an extent, I agree. But his coaches, Dewey Cooper, I don't know if that's a name you're familiar with,
No.
cruiserweight champion. He's an MMA coach, but he was a
Okay.
cruiserweight champion in boxing. And his main head coach, Eric Nixick. Shout out to Eric Nixick, one of the very few actual famous people in MMA that follows me on Twitter. He
Oh.
knows the truth. But he is a coach that is a converted coach. He spent the majority of his time in the world of football, and his approach to game planning, his approach to finding the specifics in a matchup is second to none in my opinion as far as modern day coaches in MMA. He just was the spearhead for the Sean Strickland upset against Israel
Oh.
Adesanya. He was in the corner calling out Adesanya's reads. After the fight, Adesanya told him, "You saved his life out there." Because there was multiple times I was setting him up for a same side head kick, and you literally called it out to him, and he was able to get out the way. So really interesting dynamic there. Obviously, I'm selling myself a fucking dream and I'm trying to bring you on board. But I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on Eric Nixick. That dude is for real. And I love to see, once again, having a base in a different sport and the way those skills and work ethic transfers into other sports. He's been able to really transform MMA coaching in general and brought back the gym that Randy Couture had made famous in Extreme Couture. So shout out to Eric Nixick. Good luck to Francis Ngannou, but he looks damn slow on them pads. Fuck, bro, he looks so slow. But we know who I'm rooting for. Next up, we back to the real stuff,
Hey,
baby.
let me cut you off real quick. For the Adesanya fight, do you think that was the best Adesanya, or do you think he truly was just outclassed by the trainer and by Strickland, or was something going on at Adesanya where he wasn't truly himself?
That's a great question. It already has been confirmed that 3 weeks before the fight, he was arrested for a DUI in Australia. So there is more to this story. He's not
Yeah.
even an Australian. Like, let me lay this out. He is from New Zealand. That is on the opposite side of the island. The M the MMA. That was the most casual shit I ever said. The UFC is honestly one of the worst as far as setting your fighters to market. They make these cards ahead of time and it's like fucking banquet food. Like it's all laid out the way it is and you get what you get instead of catering your champions to have fights in their actual hometown. They realized, "Oh shit, we have an event in Australia coming up, which is
Oh,
not New Zealand." And they
yeah.
asked him to do them a favor. So this was like a last minute title fight that came together too. So all of these factors, I definitely think that was not the best Adesanya. In a rematch, he is the rightful favorite. But honestly, based on the way the fight went and how dominant it was, I don't even want to see immediate rematch. Let Adesanya work his way back because I think he definitely can. I mean, everyone else in that division he lapped. Think about it. Sean Strickland was the fifth ranked middleweight coming into a title fight. Usually you don't get that. So he already beat everyone ahead of him, and in some cases, already beat them twice. So I expect Adesanya to be able to run back, but make the most out of the Sean Strickland title reign, in my opinion. One of the most underrated stories as far as he's a piece of shit of a person. He's fucking crazy. But being able to actualize your potential as a fighter is always a beautiful thing to watch for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely was interested in your take on that because watching it, I was like, yo, this don't seem right. Like it seemed like this can't be, the best of him. Seems like, maybe there was a lack of training or something. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely wanted your opinion on that.
And if there's one thing that really made me feel that way was the fifth round of Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya, which was a fucking war where he got knocked down with a head kick in the fourth. He's on the cage in the fifth round, looking at Gastelum in his eyes and says, "I'm prepared to die." I watched that on the broadcast. The
Yeah.
broadcast didn't even see it. I saw that shit, and that
Yeah.
shit gave me goosebumps. Round five came in a clear gut check moment, and he looked checked out. I knew he wasn't going to make the comeback in that one just by how he looked coming out in round five. So I
Yeah.
think with a mental adjustment, he could come back strong. Who knows? But it's crazy to see two rematches like this, right? He just lost his belt, got it back, and then loses it again. Crazy times in middleweight, to say the least. But get me excited. I told you we was going to touch on four sports. I told you we was going to get there. But next up, we've got someone that we talked about earlier in November 16th, Shakur Stevenson coming up against Edwin De Los Santos. I'm going to be very honest, Edwin. I'm not familiar with your game. Shout out to Shaquille O'Neal. I'm gonna be very honest, but it's always a fun time to watch Shakur fight. Obviously, given what I've said, I'm picking Shakur, but um, I hate that this is his fight here. I really wanted to see him get a step up, but stay busy's are stay busy's, and he should be able to get the win. How you feeling about this one?
Yes, I'm very disappointed that it's not Frank Martin. And we haven't gotten a straight answer from his team about why he didn't take this fight. He was going to make more money than he ever made in his career. You get a shot at a vacated belt. And if you beat Shakur Stevenson, you're that dude. Like now you're going on to fight against maybe a Tank Davis or a Devin Haney or a Vasil Lomachenko. Like the opportunities there are endless for Frank Martin. And it's not like Frank Martin's this super young dude. He's still young, 28, but he's not a guy where you're like, oh, he's not ready. Like he's at the point where this is where you fight for world titles. Like you need to be ready now. If you're not ready now, you may never be ready. So this one definitely is quacking like a duck for sure. And now you get a guy in Edwin who good fighter, good fighter. I've seen a few of his fights, but he's gonna be outclassed. He's gonna be outclassed in this one by Shakur. And hopefully we get Shakur Stevenson versus after this fight, against somebody who's truly a challenge for him, but this won't be it.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. That was a great shout. I forgot to ask you this, so I'm gonna circle back. I promise this would be the last thing I ask on this fight. But Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, the last question I had for you. It's fucking disrespectful, in my opinion, that they announced the Usyk fight. Of course, that's the fight we were excited about, the one that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
We don't even have a date, and you announce that it's signed before you fight, like 2 weeks before you fight. Like that seems
Yeah.
like such a weird move to me. Like, am I bugging?
Yeah.
Is that disrespectful?
No, it's extremely disrespectful. Extremely. Like you're saying, like, oh, I'm gonna win this fight, so we can go ahead and make the deal for the next one, and we'll go ahead and get it down the line. And the fact that we didn't get, the Usyk fight first was crazy to me. And it was maybe for Tyson Fury, he just saw the money and saw the business side of it first and knew like, oh, this Ngannou fight's gonna go crazy. People are gonna want to see it. They're gonna pay for it. I can make a lot of money. And I feel like Fury's at a point of his career where you mentioned with Serrano, where she's making the money on her way out. I feel like Fury's doing the same thing. He wants to make this money. He's going to fight Ngannou. He knows that should be an easy win for him. And then like his last great thing on his resume will be to beat Usyk if he does do that, and then exit and be like, I'm out of here. Peace.
And that's a great spot to peace out on for sure. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're moving on. I promise. Um, the rematch, the most anticipated rematch of the year. I'm so excited for this, bro. November 25th, Chantel Cameron versus Katie Taylor 2. We already touched on it a little bit. I hedged my pick a little, but I'll let you go first. How you feeling about this one, Damian?
Really excited for it. I'm a big fan of Katie Taylor, and I know she's going to make adjustments. She's an amazing boxer, but she's also somebody who's on the wrong side when it comes to her age and declining. And Chantel Cameron is just maybe a bad matchup. We've seen this before where great boxers have that one fighter, maybe they're just a little too big for them. One of the examples I always use is Shane Mosley versus like a Winky Wright or versus Vernon Forrest, where Shane Mosley's all time great, but those guys just had the wrong style and size for him. Feel like it could be the same thing with Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor. So I will go with Chantel Cameron again. Unfortunately, I feel sad saying that because Katie Taylor is maybe the greatest female boxer of all time. She's definitely in that conversation. But Chantel Cameron, just the wrong style matchup and size for her.
Yep, I agree, man. That's the pick for me too. And we already tipped it, so that sucks. But this is a real fucking the atmosphere like that's
Yeah.
one of the main reasons I tune in for fights in general. This is going to be a crazy fight again, so looking forward to that one. And now the actual, in my opinion, most hype but least competitive fight of the year, Regis Prograis coming up against Devin Haney on December 9th. Am I crazy, Damien? Is this going to be as one-sided for Devin Haney as I think it is?
Man, Regis Prograis is my guy. He's from New Orleans. He was like one of the first like actual famous people. I don't know if he's super famous at that time, but like he was a former world champion when he came on my podcast, and that really helped me out as far as getting coverage for boxing and stuff like that. So he's got a fan of me for life, right? But Devin Haney definitely has the edge in this one. I don't think it'll be one sided. Regis Prograis definitely did not look good in his last fight, right? And some people blame it on the hometown curse. He did fight back in New Orleans. Like my dad went to the fight out there, and he was just like, yeah, he just looked like he was just slow, right, against a guy who was moving around. And if you imagine that he's slow against that guy in Zaria, who was moving around like that, what is he going to look like against Devin Haney, who's also going to move around, who also is such a great boxer and use of his reach? You mentioned earlier how certain boxers are just so good at using their reach and knowing exactly where their reach is. Devin Haney's one of those guys who keeps you at the end of his jab, knows exactly what to do. I do think that Regis Prograis will make some adjustments, get better at cutting off the ring. So I think it'll be a decent fight. But unfortunately, I do have to go with Devin Haney to win this one by unanimous decision.
I'm sorry I had to do it to you. I realized as soon as I finished, I'm like, damn, bro, I just violated. But I I definitely feel like if it's gonna be competitive at all, it's gonna be in the later rounds, right? Like Prograis
Yeah.
has to make it a dogfight, and I think he's definitely capable of that. Definitely someone that you trust out there to fight for your money, right? If you're betting on anyone,
Yeah.
you trust to fight for your money, but at the same time, just feels like a lot to ask from Prograis in his first situational defense. Because yeah, the fact that that's a title fight in the first place is kind of crazy, but whenever I see matches like this get made, especially after someone gets a title, it's like, oh, we know exactly what you're doing, Haney. And honestly, I can't blame you, but at the same time, I think there should really be some talk about stripping your title, man. There's too many guys, I mean, at 135 to hold on to an undisputed title and move up and fight for another one. Like we got to figure out what we're doing here. Obviously, we'll see once the fight
Yeah.
is over,
No.
but felt like he was cherry picking here to say the least.
The crazy thing is that's not the cherry pick at 140. You gotta remember, Raleigh Romero is a champion at 140. Like if he really wanted to cherry pick,
I
Raleigh
forgot about that.
Romero, yes, would be the guy to cherry pick because Raleigh Romero, the fact that Raleigh Romero is a world champion right now is an absolute joke. Absolute joke. And I want a part of me wanted Devin Haney to do that. Like a part of me wanted Devin Haney to be like, all right, I'm gonna go take Raleigh Romero's title real quick and then come back and fight against Regis Prograis or somebody else at 140. Because Raleigh Romero, they're gonna mess around and he's gonna get a big fight against like a Ryan Garcia or something. I see it happening.
Oh man, and the fact that that's a big fight is just disgusting. It leaves a disgusting taste in my mouth, Damien.
Yeah.
But a great way to end out the year though, right? Like these next two fights, this last one, 12-16, Jesse Bam Rodriguez going up against Sonny
Mm.
Edwards. I'm gonna let you start with this one because I'm hype as hell for this one, man. And it's a
Yes.
great way to finish the year.
Yes. This is a very like their styles are so different.
Mhm.
And from just a technical standpoint, I can't wait to like dive in and break it down and get to the point where I'm watching their fights and see how they're gonna play against each other. Because the nerd in me is like so excited for this fight. I love Bam. I love Bam's style. I love how he has some of a Lomachenko in him where he can go forward and he can change angles, but also can be defensively sound, but also can find himself in trouble at times because of that. And Sonny is I was watching his last fight, and my wife came downstairs just to watch a little bit with me, and she was like, "He's such a cocky dude." Just from just a couple of rounds of watching him, and she was like, "He's really cocky." And it wasn't he didn't say anything. He just the way he fights is an extremely cocky style, and he better not do that. He better not come in that ring against Bam with that style level. I can put my hands down. I can just move around the ring. I can throw one punch at a time and win the fight. He better not do that against Bam. He better come with his A game and ready, which I believe he will. I think he's smart enough to know like, yo, this is a real fight. I can't go in there bullshitting with this one. So I'm very excited about this one. Who you want to pick right now?
Yes,
Oh.
sir. I need one. We gotta
uh,
close out the slate. We gotta close out the slate for the year.
I'm gonna go Bam. I'm gonna go Bam to win by decision. I think he'll just be more busier, and Sonny won't be able to move around the ring and get away from Bam the way he can other fighters. So I'm gonna go with Bam Rodriguez by decision, but I think it's a good fight. Good fight for sure.
I'm so glad that this went the way that I thought it would because I'm gonna be very honest with you. That point that you made about him being a cocky fighter is why I'm picking him in this fight. I genuinely feel like he fights like he knows something that we don't. And it's
Yeah.
time for us to be in on the fucking joke, right? Like that's how I honestly feel about it. I didn't like Bam's last fight, if I'm being honest. Obviously, he's a
Yeah.
fucking action fighter beast. Like no matter what
Yeah.
I'm tuning in, it's always fun to watch him fight. But damn, like no matter what, no matter who wins, we gonna win when we watching
Yeah.
this fight. This is gonna be great. But I'm going with Sonny. I'm going Sonny with a chance,
Ooh.
baby. Sonny with a chance. Um, but man, this year in boxing has been historically great, if you ask me. The matchups, the willing to be risking everything to try to be great, all of the execution from these promoters, which I hate to give them credit because they barely deserve it, but this year
Yeah.
they do. Where does this year rank for you? Like, is this an all-time
Mhm.
year? Is this a breakout year for boxing? Am I over exaggerating here?
No, definitely when you look at the last, like just this century, as far as from 2000 till now, like it's definitely up there. When you look back at history, this year we've gotten the great names, but like you mentioned, some of the fights that we've gotten haven't been great fights themselves, right? Like it's been one-sided. Canelo dominating Charlo, Crawford dominating against Spence, Inoue dominating against Fulton, Gervonta Davis dominating against Garcia. So we've gotten these great fights or these great matchups that didn't turn out to be great fights. But if you include the great fights, like we mentioned earlier, Devenchenko, Munguia, and all the Navarrete fights, both of them were crazy. You look at the fights that we've had that have been great fights and combine them with the great matchups, this year is definitely up there as far as one of the best years. I'll have to really like look back, and that could be a segment. Gave me a great idea to like rank my top 5 years. So I'm probably gonna do that. If not this episode, the next episode of the podcast, and I'll look back and see my top 5 years in boxing. But if you go way back, of course, you got to go back to years when you had like fights of the century that happened, like when Mayweather Pacquiao. Even though a lot of people shit on that fight, it was a decent fight. And it was actually that fight was way more competitive than the big fights or big matches we had this year.
Yep.
When you think about it, so when you think about that year, you think about you go way back to Tyson and Holyfield having that matchup, and some of the other matches we've seen back then, or you go back to the years we got where we had Lewis and Tyson. You think about some of the biggest
Mhm.
matchups we had, and some of those big matches weren't great fights, but then you look back at that year and yeah, especially when you look back at some of the, you go way back to the 80s when you had, just Duran and you had Duran going against Sugar Ray Leonard and Sugar Ray Leonard going against Thomas Hearns and all these different fighters going against each other at the same time. So this year stands out a lot because we got the bullshit before, right? In the years that we've known each other, you had me on a bunch of times where I was complaining about the lack of good matchups. So now we got this year where it stands out so much because of what we got in the previous years. So if you put this year in a vacuum compared to other years in the past where this was expected, I have to really look at it and see where it matches up. But it's definitely up there for sure.
I agree, man. I think the sheer volume of where we're headed to the sport is what makes this year so exciting. But yeah, some of the and it's so crazy to consider that they haven't delivered when we got top performances from all three of those guys. But at the same
Yeah,
time, you got to consider what was expected, right? Like the fact
yeah,
that those all turned out dominant. It's such a weird thing. Like being in the midst of a fighter's era and enjoying that versus being in an era of parody. Like, I would love to see an era of parody in boxing like we've had in MMA for the last 5 years, where
yeah,
things are just insane. I don't know if we'll get there, but I think this trend of making these fights is not going to die down here. I mean, we already got some big ones on the slate for next year already. So
yeah.
boxing has never died. You're crazy if you ever said that in your life. But god damn, it got two jumper cables on each fucking nipple right now. And we're fucking rolling, baby. So I love it. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you, I'm the MMA guy. So I had to figure out a way to bring this into this whole thing. God damn it. We've gotten two crossover fights in boxing, but it's been in boxing. I don't know if
Yeah.
you heard of this fight, but way back in the day, there was a guy named Tim Sylvia, and he was a heavyweight champ here in the UFC. And they capitalized. He left the UFC to fight one man, and that man was Ray Mercer. And
Oh,
That fight took place in MMA, not in boxing.
Oh,
And I encourage you, go back and watch that fight, Damian, because it's fucking hilarious. I mean, the other big representation of an MMA and boxing fight in MMA was James Toney versus Randy Couture.
yeah,
Obviously, we know that was a one-sided ass whooping. Ray Mercer, it was so funny. Apparently, before the fight, there was a gentleman's agreement that Tim Sylvia would not be throwing kicks. And as soon as the
yeah,
fight started, he lands a leg kick, and you could see Ray Mercer like, "What the fuck?" Like legitimately, like, "Are you serious?" And then within 2 seconds, lands one of the nastiest short hooks and knocks out Tim Sylvia in MMA and
yeah.
shocked the world. What
Wow,
would be the matchup that you would want to see in a crossover fight with a boxer coming over to MMA?
wow, that's a really good question. A boxer coming over to MMA. And I'm trying to think outside of Clarissa Shields, like what other boxers, can have really like, gone over to that, that world and could be successful because the same way I feel about MMA fighters coming over to boxing, where boxers are so much more skilled, I feel the same way in the opposite direction. Like boxers going over to MMA to fight these guys who are so skilled in so many disciplines is crazy. But to think about who I want to see in that matchup, dang, I'm trying to think, man, because what there's some boxers who seem like they have kind of like the movement where they could be good as far as strikers in MMA, and they could kind of make some things work. Like I feel like a John Jones crossover fight would be crazy massive, but I'm trying to think of now he's in heavyweight. So what heavyweight would I want to see there? I don't think definitely not like a Deontay Wilder. That would just be a one-sided ass whooping. John Jones might kill Deontay Wilder in there. Unless Deontay Wilder landed the right hand, that would be the only saving grace. But in MMA, he wouldn't have a chance to land that right hand. Um, Dang, so I have to go to a different division. It couldn't be heavyweight because I can't think of anybody outside of Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury is too big for MMA. I feel like, so I have to go to a different division. I'm trying to think now, who could it be? Wow, well,
Got him in the
could we
hot
see?
seat, baby. Got him in the
Yeah,
hot
nah, this is
seat.
this is a great question. So there's not a 168 in MMA, right?
170 is right there.
170. So could we see Canelo against who's the king at 170 right now in MMA?
Leon Edwards. That'd be
No,
phenomenal. That'd be
yes. So
phenomenal. Yeah.
Canelo versus Leon Edwards. Maybe that's something we could see down the line when Canelo's done. He just wants to have one more payday to add to his kids' trust fund. Maybe we could see Canelo versus Leon Edwards in the octagon.
That's fucking great. Honestly, that's never even crossed my mind. But
Yeah,
Leon Edwards has a sneaky clinch game, and with the way
yeah,
Canelo operates in tight two, that'll be fucking phenomenal. So shout out to
yeah.
that. That was so far from my imagination. Great shout, bro. Um, if I'm throwing one in this list, because I this is so random, but hear me out here. Sean O'Malley just won the UFC title, and who did he call out? Javante Davis.
Wow.
And in the
Yeah,
past, Javante Davis had said that he will fight in MMA. He said he grew up wrestling. This is stuff that he said. Nobody said
yeah,
it's not like he got pushed into it. He's like, I want to fight in MMA before I retire. I would love to see that fight, man. Obviously, it'll probably happen in boxing first if it happens at
yeah,
all. But would love to see that, man. I think obviously in both of our matchups, we got a striker against a boxer. So
yeah,
are they going to just sell out and go immediately for a takedown? Who knows? I wouldn't blame them. But
yeah, for sure.
potential for some instant madness like there was in that Ray Mercer Tim Sylvia fight. So I'd love to see that. But Damien,
I gotta go back and watch that one. I did not know about that one. Ray Mercer is definitely one of the most underrated heavyweights of all time. Like he had nasty power. If you want to see like you want to see a referee do a horrible job, go back and watch Ray Mercer versus Tommy Morrison.
mm,
Like Ray Mercer destroyed Ty Morrison on the ropes, and the referee took forever to come back in, and Ray Mercer showed no mercy in that one, as it was crazy. So I would definitely go back and watch that fight that you mentioned. Though I didn't know about that one. That's crazy.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. But Damien, It's always insane whenever we finish these fights, bro. I'm here fucking sweating, bro. I'm here sweating like a hoe in church, bro. I don't know how the fuck we got through this marathon blitz, but this was awesome, bro. It feels like a fever dream. Like it feels like we did three different podcasts, man. But I love it. I think hands down, if anyone tunes in that's a fan of any of these sports at any time, everything here is fucking quality, man. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And shit, I hope you had as much fun as I did, bro, because I'm here geeking.
Nah, this was a blast, man. You know, I love geeking out and going deep into the NBA, NFL, boxing. Like I said, with UFC, I'm getting more and more into it. I'm still on the casual side as far as my knowledge, but it's coming more and more. Like I think last time I surprised you with my analysis when we talked about UFC on my podcast. So I'm starting to get more and more closer to it. I'll probably never be on your level as far as how deep you are into it, but I'm getting more and more to the point where maybe I'll start doing some UFC breakdowns on my podcast eventually. I'm getting closer to that point. But man, I always enjoy being on the podcast with you, man. Like you said, the range. It's the range that we're able to show on the podcast, man. So I love it.
Yes, sir. And if you want to see more of that range, Damian, one more time, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, so you can find me on all social media platforms at the Real Deal WDA. That's the Real Deal. W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. If you are a Phoenix sports fan, make sure you follow Burn City Sports on all social media platforms. We got you covered on everything Phoenix sports. That's Cardinals, Suns, Coyotes, Diamondbacks, Phoenix Rising, everything Arizona State. If anybody from Phoenix does anything, we write about it. I get to sneak in some boxing articles because they've been Benavidez being from Phoenix. So and I wrote one about Elijah Garcia, who's on the undercard of the Canelo fight, who looked amazing in his bout. So you'll get some boxing here and there as well with the people who represent for Arizona. But go ahead and check out the website, burncitysports.com, and my podcast, The Real Deal with Damian Adams. So I definitely will have Chris on soon. Maybe that idea that he just gave me about the top 5 years in boxing, maybe I'll have him on so we can kind of go back and forth on that for sure.
Heck yeah, man. I love it. Make sure you're following him. You could find me at Negrong MMA on Twitter and TikTok. Make sure you run that up. Really excited to start spamming you guys with TikToks, man. I'm buying a new phone just for this. The operation is in motion, baby. So tune in, and then make sure you follow me on excuse me, on Instagram at Chris Negrong underscore. I'm short circuiting here, guys. Stay with me. But make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all platforms and OTS Media on YouTube. We're running out of breath, but god damn it, it was worth it. We'll catch you guys next time on TSG. Peace.